a reminder, if you're going out on the course with the players, keep your distance behind the groups, behind the caddies and the media. Please turn your phones to silent. Our 3 o'clock tee time, final tee time of the day.
Hello everyone and welcome to the opening round of the 2018 Glass Blown Open presented by Dynamic Disc. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, along with Robert the Hair McCall.
Hey, what's up?
How are we doing today, Robert?
Things are great, man. The weather in Emporia is beautiful, and yeah, we're ready to watch some disc golf. Not a brand new layout here at the Country Club, but reordered and a couple of different holes for us. So excited to see our players take the tee out here.
We're here on hole number 1, measuring in at 1,135 feet. Rikki Wysocki first to tee off in the group, and what a card we have to show today.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a round to, maybe not for the ages, but I think we could see some fantastic scores put down today. Each of these gentlemen have the distance necessary to make these holes pretty easy if they find themselves in good spots. But if you look at the course map for Country Club here, there is a lot of out of bounds on this course, like a lot of out of bounds. If you look at the map, it's just OB, 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 OB. So it's going to be really important for our competitors to keep our discs in bounds. And just as I say that, Paul Macbeth has thrown his disc left out of bounds, way up the hill, so he probably has still a shot at saving a par 5, but not how he wants to start his round on this. I'd say fairly easy to birdie par 5 for these guys.
Simon Lizotte will have to keep things in check, plenty of distance. Now, when they're thinking about the OBs, they're both left and right here on this first hole. Is there a mistake? If you're going to make one, is there a mistake to make one way or another?
Man, if you have to choose going OB on either side, then left is the better side to go OB, simply because you're farther down the fairway. But this is a really wide landing zone. And so if these competitors want to play for 3, that's really the only time I think they would bring 5 into question. If you want to play for a 4 here, any of our top competitors could card a 4 fairly easily as long as you're playing for that. Once you go for 3, you bring a lot of OB into play. Right side you might have to push, or even far left side, and then the green up by the basket plays OB as well, and so that's going to catch some errant second shots for guys playing for the Eagle. Speaking of Eagle, just easy hyzer up for him. He'll have either a straight shot or a kind of a flex down to the basket. Kind of a difficult angle to attack the basket from, to be honest, but I don't know. He's an aggressive player. I don't know if he's going to play for the 3 or play for the 4, but I like to see what we've got going on here.
So welcome, everyone. We're here in studio. We're at the Dynamic Disc Distribution Center. Robert McCall and myself, Terry Miller, the disc golf guy. We're going to be calling the shots. We've got a couple of cameras out there. Of course, the throw and the catch camera. We're going to also roam around the course, probably check in with that second camera from time to time, or I'm sorry, that second to last card. We see Nate Dawson, a few other great players on that card. So we'll be able to give you as much action as possible from around the course. Originally, we were hoping to be able to bring you some FPO coverage. That's not going to happen today, but it will happen the next 2 days. Sometimes Signal just doesn't play along with us, so we'll be able to give you a little extra on the MPO side today. And it'll be interesting to see how things shake out. We'll also be relying heavily on udisclive.com, as they're going to be bringing us stats and scores from all over the course. And we'll be able to check in and see what's going on. Who's an early leader at this point, Robert? Did you see a little while ago?
Yeah, early leader in the clubhouse right now is Grady Shue, who's put down a score of 53, 10 under par. I mean, that's good. That's
course record good even.
That's right.
You say?
That's right, because this is the first day that this course has been available officially for official play here. So yeah, 10 under 53 is the new course record. I don't feel like I'm going out on a limb too much right now when I say I think we'll see that broken this week, but that's a great round. He was really clean through the first 15 holes, and then just took one bogey on the par 4 17th. And so that put him at 53. Right behind him for the day, also only taking one bogey. You may have heard of him if you like the Disc Golf Answer Man or Dynamic Discs. Eric Mccabe, coming out hot, shooting a 54. So super proud of you, Eric. Good shooting today, buddy. And then on that same pace, was just on that same pace as Drew Gibson through 16. He's 8 under par. Just took a bogey on the 16th, which is the island hole, but otherwise he's still got a couple of birdie opportunities coming up.
And as you were just talking about, a new course configuration, maybe a little later, we'll have Eric Mccabe join us. We might be able to talk about a few of the changes. What would you say?
Course a lot more fair to all players. So hole 1 is a combination of old holes 6 and 7, I believe. And yeah, this is a new par 5, brand new opening hole. You can basically just let loose. Like I said, there's a pretty wide landing zone. Errant drives can find OB left or right, but for the most part, you can find a good spot and play for a 4. I was actually surprised to see that this hole is playing a little bit over par. I thought we'd definitely be a little bit under, but right now, thanks to UDisc Live, we can see that this that hole 1 is playing at 5.06. So 0.06 throws over par. Maybe we've seen some aggressive play by people who wanted to get that 3 and just found some out of bounds or something like that. But 50% of the field is taking par on this hole right now.
So a moment ago, we talked about Grady Shue and his 10 under par. You think that might get bested. Should we go ahead and talk right now about what you think a winning total score will be? Because they're playing all 3 rounds here. You have 3 shots at it. What would you say a total score might be for the winner come Saturday afternoon?
It's honestly really difficult because we haven't played this layout before, so we have no experience in what scores are going to look like. This is going to be really our first set of scores to check out. I don't know. I think the leader of the tournament will probably have to end up at least 30 under at this point. As long as the weather cooperates as it has today, there's just a little bit of wind, maybe 5 or 10 miles an hour. As long as the weather cooperates, I think we could see, 3 rounds of 10 would probably be pretty close to it.
It looks like Paul Macbeth is lining up for his shot. Macbeth throwing from just inside the OB line, and we see a few new course assets out there, including some walls, a few extra feather banners, and other things kind of dressing up the course, making it look that much better for all of our competitors.
Absolutely, and this is already a beautiful course because it is on a country club, and it's well maintained. The guys out there at the country club take good care of this course, and once we're into the summer and have a little bit more bloom, everything is green and beautiful out here. And so this is one of my favorite courses to play in town, and I'm excited to see the best players in the world playing out here today.
Wysocki with his second shot. Looks like he's pretty content with that. Rikki Wysocki carrying a new bag, or should I say a cart around. A cart and a bag?
That's right. Yeah, so Rikki has had the luxury E3 signature edition for himself, the Sake Bomb edition. So he's carried that bag whenever he has carried a bag, but recently he has started using the Zuka LG backpack cart from Dynamic Discs. And the LG cart has just a little bit more space. If you like having just a little bit bigger seat, or like carrying a bigger bag, like the Ranger H2O or the E3 or any of the bigger bags that we see out there, that's a great option for you. It is a little bit heavier than the standard backpack cart, but it does give you more room, so that's some of the trade-off that you make there.
And that pushes to the right side, but gets the green flag. He's inbounds. So this very first hole, a great opportunity for you to loosen up your arm.
Yes.
You're talking about over 1,100 feet. These guys can let loose. Not too much to worry about. Of course, there is some OB. What are we going to see as they move into the next hole?
So the next hole is actually one of the pin placements that's changed recently. So the next hole was an original hole, just renumbered now. But the pin has moved where it was up on the top of the hill, and now it's moved about 130 or 150 feet back into the left. And so competitors used to be able to just throw a drive wherever in bounds over by the big cedar, as long as it didn't land in the fairway, the OB fairway, I should say. And even if it was a short drive, they could get up and down because it was just to the top of the hill. Now the basket is slightly farther over the hill, and so players have to throw really a much more technical hyzer under some branches, or a forehand out over the OB fairway to get their look at a birdie 3. See Rikki Wysocki taking his BT hard harp, as he's been known to throw. I mean, I guess people know him for that. 1,000,000
times over.
Yeah, that's correct. And it looks like he's nestled that about 20 feet from the basket for his look at birdie 4 here.
speaking of the conditions that we're seeing out there today, we have gorgeous weather.
Yes.
And I think it's fair to say we're not always blessed with gorgeous weather at this event. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, and unfortunately, one of the things that the Glassblown Open is, I guess, perennially known for is having some brutal weather days. Whether we had our final day of competition last year got stormed out, rained out, lightninged out, whatever verb you want to use that made us really sad. And then we usually have, somewhere around gale force winds, I would call them. But right now, the courses are beautiful. The weather is beautiful. We see Simon Lizotte kind of running maybe a jump putt throw up to the basket, but he put that just inside the circle. I think from that distance he probably wanted to be a little bit closer than that. Nevertheless, he's got an inside the circle putt for his birdie 4.
And this should be a relatively routine up and down here for Eagle McMahon. He's going to be looking at a birdie if he can get this inside the circle. And he can play up and over the bush. He did have to kind of look up and, we'll say squat under and look up and over as it was blind, the one bush between him and the basket, but nearly perfect approach right next to the pin.
Yeah, easy drop in for 4. You're never going to be upset with birdie here. Like we've talked about, the biggest arms in the world, I think on a perfect day with a perfect drive, might think about playing this hole for 3 and trying to get a long look at 3. We've seen Paul Macbeth's drive went OB left. Owen just misses for his look, for his long putt look there, but he went OB left and then from his OB drive through to that spot, and so that's going to be. The distance between those two shots makes it so that you could reach in 2, like have a putt at 3, even with an errant drive, if you are one of those elite distance throwers. So if some of our elite distance throwers put together the best drives they've thrown in a little while, I think we could get a couple of 3s this week.
And low by Lizotte. And as we're looking at Lizotte, it looks like Macbeth is going to be ultimately about the same distance as he had gone past the pin, leaving himself a little bit of a comebacker. So no big fireworks here as we're opening up on this very first hole.
No, Macbeth has got his look for par 5 right here, maybe 20 or 25 feet from our perspective. And just climbs it over the rim. Basically no harm, no foul. Our top players are going to want to start out with a 4 here, but par won't be too bad. And Rikki's putt significantly nose down, but it keeps him inside the basket, and he's going to card a birdie 4 on his first hole. Looks like Simon will be tapping in for his par 5 and Eagle for his birdie 4.
The Captain is the newest understable distance driver in the Dynamic Discs lineup. Fitting right between the Sheriff and the Freedom, this disc is going to be great for those long tailwind shots, hyzer flips, and beginning players looking to step up into that distance driver category. Looking at the numbers, the Captain is a speed 13, glide 5, turn of -2, and a fade of 2. So you're going to get a very nice hyzer flip out of this and a long turn over to the right. If you find yourself on the course needing maximum distance, the Captain is the one you're going to be grabbing over and over and over again.
.790 feet, a par 4. Is this one that's pretty attackable for the birdie 3?
I think top players, or even just most of the MPO field, could have a good look at a birdie 3 as long as they land their drive and bounce here. That's honestly the key to this course. Limiting your OB strokes is incredibly important out at the country club. You can see the flight line on the hole layout right there. There is a big hyzer to the hole. A lot of players on this card, I think, especially with a bit of headwind, are going to choose to take a distance driver out over the OB fairway and work it over to the right. That actually gives them the greatest distance potential and then sets them up for an easier approach to the basket. So somebody like Rikki, I think, will probably throw, I don't know, a defender, or maybe for him, this is an enforcer that he's got in his hand. So this may be a hyzer, but I see a lot of guys just trusting something over the fairway just to finish to the right. And he has taken more of the kind of force-over anhyzer play, just hugging the first tree off the box, trying to find a spot in the fairway. That's really all you can do here.
Both Eagle and Wysocki opening up the round with birdies. And you can see by the feather banners, thanks to latitude 64, there's just a little bit of a breeze. Looks like it's coming right at them in their face.
Eagle's also taken kind of the force over line. And there's, other than the first tree in the fairway, the second spot that you can really get in trouble in is the cedar that you can see over there to the right. If you get behind that, you might still be able to get up and down to the shorter pin, but as this pin plays longer, that's going to really pinch off your second shot. And so you really want to be left of that cedar and just at a spot where you can choose the route that you want to throw. Macbeth's drive is basically perfect, right down the middle. Don't need a ton of distance here, and that's going to afford him the opportunity to throw a forehand up to the basket if he'd like to, or a backhand hyzer under the trees.
We'll see just how much Simon Lizotte can bite off on this drive, and it looks like he's kept it clean and in the fairway. He may have a good look from there.
He may be a little tight to that tree that we were talking about, but if he's far enough over to the side, shouldn't be an issue for him to get some sort of look up to the basket. Hole 2 is playing in just slightly over par, 4.17 today. It looks like 21% of the field has taken birdie on this hole and 48 taken par. Not a lot of big numbers on this hole. Really, the most trouble that you could get in is if you attempt throwing over the OB fairway and just don't get to the right enough, and it stays OB. Then you're throwing from way back, throwing your third, and that's 5. I mean, that's auto 5 pretty much.
Okay, well, as these guys are moving down the fairway, we're going to be able to check in with, again, more scores from around the course. We'll also be able to check in with the women's scores. They teed off at the exact same time for the last card of the day. They had a 3 p.m. tee off over, and I believe that's at Cottonwood Falls, which is a course I'm not personally too familiar with myself. Unfortunately, it didn't work with us in terms of having the broadcast over there, but what could someone expect to see over at Cottonwood Falls?
I actually really enjoy Cottonwood Falls, one of my favorite places to play around town for sure, because there's a stretch of holes that is unlike anything else that we have in town. So holes 1, 2, 3, 4, right in that area are kind of just a park style, few trees that shape the fairway that you have to throw. But once you get into holes 5 through 9 or 10, pretty tight woods. Gaps to hit and landing spots to find, and if you don't find those, you can be in a world of hurt really, really quickly. And so I think the competitors that end up on top will definitely have to navigate that stretch and just kind of keep it clean. Really, they're pretty easy birdies to find, assuming that you're just playing safe and playing for a spot, not a place to get aggressive at all in those woods. And then there are plenty of birdies to be found out in the open after that. But if the wind is up even just a little bit, that can affect all of the first few holes and then the closing holes as well.
Well, it'll be great to see how the scores roll in from that side. We'll actually be able to show you real quickly. It looks like they're looking for a disc here on the card, so we're going to check in with some of the FPO scores that we're seeing right now. Zoe Andike currently through 6 holes is sitting 3 under par. Elaine King and Colleen Thompson both through 7 holes are sitting 2 under par, and Katrina Allen, Rebecca Cox, Paige Bjerkes, well, pretty much the rest of the field are all sitting at 1 under par. Quite a few women all knotted up there at that 1 under. So it looks like Eagle will be ready to go here in a moment.
It looks like he's found out of bounds on the right side here, and that is, well, with a headwind, that is one of the risks that you run, is if you turn your drive over just a bit too much and it stays up in the wind, it gets caught up in the wind, it can hang out over that right side and find out of bounds. So this will likely be for his 3rd shot, trying to get up to the basket for his look at a par 4. He's done so really well, but from his perspective, it probably looks like that's really close. This green is a little bit deceptive from back down the hill, and so I think he's probably going to have 30 or so feet left. Still a routine putt for these guys, but not a drop in by any means.
Well, and Rikki Wysocki, and we know his legs work because if you were watching the Q&A last night, we saw that he managed to kick the curtain out of the way. We'll see if he can use those the length from those legs to outstretch here from underneath that cedar tree.
Yeah.
What a precarious position.
Yeah, he's absolutely stymied here, and that's going to take birdie out of play for the most part. He really just needs to pitch up to the fairway and get his par 4 and move on. This is not a time to get aggressive or try and make anything crazy happen because if you get loose with any shot out here, you can find out of bounds.
Paul Macbeth lining up his second shot.
Paul's opted for the hyzer here, and from the position that he's in, I think that's a really good play. As long as the distance is right, there is not a ton of trouble once you get up to the basket. There is some OB right and long, and then the fairway left, but for a player like Paul who throws big hyzers all the time, that's a relatively safe shot. We were worried that Simon's drive might have found the cedar tree, but he's actually cleared it, and so he's going to have a pretty routine hyzer for himself as well. No, and he's played that to perfection. Almost skipped it in. That's going to be basically a drop in for his birdie 3. Very well played by Simon there.
Well, welcome back, everyone. We are, again, Robert McCall, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy. We're in the booth. We're here at the Dynamic Disc Distribution Center, and that's
right.
quite a mouthful to spit out all those.
I just call it the DC, man.
The DC. Wow. So
we have
clever.
this
It's
real
the
cool
headquarters.
lingo. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I'm going to have to get up to par.
Yeah.
We're so glad that you guys are joining us. Of course, we're here for the first round of the 2018 Glass Blown Open presented by Dynamic Disc. Please go out, share the link, let everyone know you're watching some live disc golf. And not only are we bringing you the video action, but you can check out udisclive.com if you want more up-to-date statistics and details as we try and feed those to you throughout the broadcast.
Absolutely. And I can't speak enough to how much UDisc has changed disc golf in the last couple of years. I love getting to analyze statistics and look at hole handicaps and birdie percentages and putting percentage inside the circle. It's I just can't say enough about Josh and Matt. Great guys. Their app is absolutely worth the $5 that you pay to have the pro membership. Just do that. Support these guys, and you'll be supporting disc golf.
And we noticed, and I was just about to mention the wind, we noticed that on the tee there was a very gentle breeze, and then a few moments later, closer to the basket, I thought I saw some of the OB flags blowing a little bit more steadily, and there just a moment ago it looks like Eagle stood down, maybe even switched up his putter, and either way, it seems to be effective, right into the center of the chains.
Yeah, birdie 3 is great here. This is one of those courses that if you take par, you're not going to be really upset most of the time, but when you do have opportunities like Eagle's set up right there, you want to convert, so well done for him. This is going to be Ricky's look at his par 4 after being stymied off his drive. He puts it in the left side, so he'll be taking a par. Pardon me, the right side for him, the left side for us. That'll be
sometimes perspective is really tough.
Yeah, I have to look at my hands for the directions sometimes. Paul and Simon have made this hole look relatively routine, taking their birdie 3s.
So, as we're going to move over to hole number 3 here in just a few moments, we're also trying to check in on the chat board. We see there's some really passionate viewers that are out there, making sure they're giving us all of their suggestions and ideas for improvements. We appreciate those so greatly as we're trying to do everything we can. We are working. If the stream is not up to par, go ahead and hit the refresh button. That may increase the viewing in terms of how it's coming through on your end. And we're doing everything that we can on our end to make sure we're giving you the best possible signal. And we've got Chad and Rick, along with Gary, all three of them out in the field, give us the action from everywhere else. And we've talked now a number of times about UDisc and how important and how crucial the app has become and how we've come to rely on it and how we love it so much, it also takes either the players or volunteers to input that information as they're playing around out there, and that's also a key component to this right now. And so thank you to anyone out there assisting in that nature.
Absolutely. That's one of the growing pains that we have in our sport right now is we have the technology to check out these stats, but we don't have enough volunteers every time to be able to go out and follow them and input the stats for them. So right now the players are having to do it from time to time. We have had a lot of volunteers step up and help out with that as well. And if you are one of those volunteers, thank you so much, because that makes a huge difference. One less thing that the players have to think about while they're competing out there, and we at home still get to see the stats and everything that's going on the course with these players.
Well, and if you volunteer enough, you too could possibly join the Salmon Shirt Club that both Robert and I have been a part of here today.
Yeah, it's not like we called each other, but
well, I'm not sure
Snapchat
constitutes as calling.
But it's a beautiful day outside. It's almost like spring here finally in Emporia, so I'm gonna wear a festive pastel. That's what I went with.
I do whatever you do. So
okay, that sounds right.
Regardless of the logic, whatever Robert does, I do.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Now, one thing that we may experience or see throughout the week, we have so many MPO competitors out here, and everyone's trying to, of course, get teed off and then play through this course as quickly as possible. This first round in particular, we may see a little bit of a slower pace as people are getting their first competitive round in for the week on it. We'll see if the pace picks up throughout the week, but that's also one of the challenges when you're talking about such a large field is by the time that 3 o'clock time frame rolls around, or that tee time, things might be a little bit backed up.
Now, this will be as full as the course is going to be all day for this last card. As we see Macbeth take the forehand out over the left side, and that's a shot that I remember watching him at 2016 Worlds. Missed just a little bit and find the OB on the left side, so he's made a great correction there. Simon is going to play the big hyzer. Really just has one or two trees to miss there. As long as he's got the stability, he can get back to the basket. And he's thrown a beautiful shot. It's probably going to be slightly short of the basket, but covered almost all of the fairway.
Again, it seems like the wind is really ripping if you're looking at that left side flag in particular. I said left side, but it's a west side, left side flag, actually.
Ricky's gone with the hyzer as well. I'm kind of surprised by that. For a player who has such a dominant forehand, I thought he would have I thought he would have taken the forehand out over the left side, but it looks like he's gotten a good result from his hyzer here. This is I'd say a relatively difficult to get on the course. This hole is coming in just over par at 3.18. Most of our par 3s out here are going to be easier than this one.
And McMahon lines up the forehand. You've got to assume that's something that's pretty stable.
Yeah, more than likely a PD2 if I had to guess. And he's played it just to tip up to flat a little bit and get down to the tree on the left side. That landing zone is approximately 40 to 60 feet from the basket, so he'll be right around circle 2, looking for his bid at birdie 2 on this hole.
And to clarify, for those who maybe aren't regular viewers or watchers, when we refer to circle 1 or circle 2, you're talking about a 10-meter and 20-meter indicator. Anything inside that 10 meters is considered to be inside circle 1, and then the circle 2 starts at 20 meters, which is approximately 66, 67 feet for all of us here in America.
Yeah. For those of us who don't know what meters are, that's a good measurement for that. And we mark those off so that we can keep statistics a little bit better. We've known about the inside circle 1 for the longest time, and people could say, I only missed 1 inside the circle this week and I didn't miss any. Those are putts that the top professionals are going to want to be making. Plain and simple. If it's windy, if it's not, doesn't matter. Those are ones that they want to count on. And inside circle 2, depending on how far away they are, sometimes those are, bonus putts to make. And so I love seeing the statistics on those of people who are just really consistent inside circle 1, how much that can affect their round and their score, and then if they get some bonus putts from inside circle 2.
Well, earlier we were talking about the leader, and thus far it still looks like it remains to be Grady Shue, who came in, and his circle 2 putting percentage was 50%.
Wow.
His circle 1 putting percentage was 94%.
Yeah, that's
so,
1 miss. That's awesome.
Yeah, getting it done. They say you drive for show and putt for dough, and it seems as if that's a winning combination right now for Grady Shue's hot opening round.
Yes, sir. And eagle ends up just low from 60 feet or so. Not a bad run, but honestly not one that I expected him to be really aggressive on. There is OB cart path behind the basket, so if your putter gets just a little too hot, it could find that OB area. And Simon with a beautiful putt from around 40 or 45 feet. Just climbs in the basket, but well played by him. It'll be a nice birdie too. And it's not a bonus birdie necessarily, but this is a really good birdie to get. Macbeth from just outside circle 1 catches chains on the left, and it doesn't hang on. He'll have to settle for par here.
And not much wind on the flag there for Wysocki's putt. Gallery approves.
So seeing two birdie twos here, I think, is probably a pretty good percentage compared to the other cards on the course today. This hole does play over par for the field right now, so seeing a couple birdies is a treat for us.
Well, we're through 3 holes, and as you said, we're watching things unfold. And just a moment ago, again, thanks to UDisc, we see that Drew Gibson has moved into a tie for first place. And I've got to click on another button here to tell me if that is, in fact, he has completed his round. He goes birdie-birdie on holes 17 and 18, and that's going to bring him also to a total score of 53. So Drew Gibson tied with Grady Shue, your early clubhouse leaders, both sitting at that 10 under par, and right behind them, Dynamic Disc's very own Eric Mccabe.
Man, I'll probably say this all day. I'm so proud of Eric. He is really good at disc golf. He's spent a lot of his time lately designing courses around the country, around the world, but I think that makes people sleep on him sometimes and think, maybe he doesn't quite have what he had before. And he's the 2010 world champ, and I think he's showing it today. I've played with him out at Country Club a few times, and when he's dialed in, he makes it look effortless and makes putts. And, turns out that's how you do well at disc golf.
I guess so. And Eric, who this year has become eligible to compete in 40 and over
MP40.
MP40, I believe it's now called. So Eric's still in the open division. And speaking of that, I see George Smith, who is certainly of MP40 eligibility.
Yes,
I know
he
he
is.
has been for a few years. That's why I say certainly. He's currently tied for 5th. Do you know as to why George Smith, who's been around for quite some time, he's a low 4-digit PDGA number, I believe 4,000 and something. Any idea why he's playing open this weekend? Was that where the money was? Or?
Maybe that's just where the money is. And maybe he wants to play a national tour as well, because the MP40 fields and the age-protected divisions are playing at an A tier this weekend.
Okay.
So maybe he wanted to get some NT points, but George can absolutely still compete with some of these top throwers. He's got plenty of distance, and he's just really steady. It seems like he doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes.
Yeah, he is PDGA number 4034, and it comes in right now. He's got a 5 under par, sitting in a tied for 5th.
We see a beautiful drive here. It's going to be just long of this basket. This hole 4 plays 402 feet downhill. I think it honestly plays, even though the hole does play downhill, I think 402 is a pretty accurate distance for this. Players do have to, I'd say not a full power flex shot, but they're not easing up on any shots into the screen. most of these players who have a lot more power can just hang it out over the green and get close to the basket. Looks like Macbeth has just hung his drive a bit high and has come short of the basket, close to the OB cart path, but still with a look at birdie 2. Eagle looks as if he's lining up a wide hyzer as well. Players who don't quite have as much power will take a straighter line, but these the players on the lead card today, or the feature card rather, are at no loss for power at all, and almost rings it up. I would have loved to have seen this hole get ace today, but that should be a drop-in birdie for Eagle. Eagle McMahon, not the score, by the way.
Oh.
In case you were confused, that's what we're talking about.
Well, thank you for the clarification, and we may have a very special guest. We just spoke a moment ago of Eric Mccabe. He's confirmed. He said he may come on over here to the DC, as
yes,
I think you've
that's right.
called it. It looks like he's going to come over here. We'll be able to sit and chat with him for a few minutes, maybe get some of the details about his round. And again, out on UDisc, it looks like someone had said he missed just one putt during the entire round and was on the final hole.
That sounds like him, if we're being honest. He does not miss a lot of putts.
Great looking gallery that's out there today. It is a Thursday afternoon here in Emporia, and we're talking about 1,600 total competitors that are in Emporia this week, more than 1,600. We'll talk about some of the actual specifics and the numbers a little bit later, but that's a ton of disc golfers, a lot of people here enjoying the action, and I think it gives a great opportunity to come out and be a spectator immediately following your round, as I'm sure so many of these people are doing.
I agree, and I'm excited that this is the gallery that we have on Thursday, because there are still people at their offices who can't hop out of work to come and check out the action here. I'm really excited to see the gallery on Saturday. I'm hoping that we have some really hot scores, tightly grouped at the top, so that the competition is close for the final round. And even with just a slight miss on his hyzer that missed a little bit left, great putt by Macbeth. Looked like he was just outside circle 1. Always good to net a 2 on this hole.
It looks like Simon will take a knee and stretch out to his right here.
Yeah, he may have a couple of branches in his way from the tree between himself and the basket. Yeah, and it looked like they obstructed him enough to mess with his putt. He may have been playing with a little bit of right to left crosswind as well. So he might have been playing for a bit of rise on that putt that just never came.
And to answer one of our viewers who's out there, Seth Steinway says 3 rounds on this course, and yes, we will be seeing the country club played for all 3 rounds out here. We'll get into a little bit of that after we come back for hole number 5. We'll tell you about some of the logic and reasoning for why you're going to see all 3 rounds of this national tour event on the MPO side take place.
The Maverick is the newest understable fairway driver that anyone of any skill level can find use for. Whether you're a top pro or a brand new disc golfer, the Maverick is going to be a great flyer for you. With a speed 7, glide of 4, turn of -1.5, and a fade of 2, this disc is all about angle control. With exceptional glide and a comfortable feel in the hand, the Maverick is going to become your go-to disc. Whether you need a hyzer flip in the woods, a long turnover, or just a laser beam straight shot, do your scorecards a favor and check out the Maverick from Dynamic Discs.
Welcome back, everyone. Robert McCall and Terry Miller, the disc golf guy. We are through 4 holes, and this is a quick look at hole number 5. Or that's your digestive system. Are those lungs?
No. This is actually hole number 5. Yeah, you had it right the first time.
All right, 681 feet. What are we seeing here?
Hole 5 plays at 4.38 right now, 0.38 over par. I think this is one of the most difficult par 4s on the course. Between this hole and hole 18, I think these are the 2 holes that play the most difficult for most of our competitors. Right now, we've got a 19% birdie conversion rate for our open field, 44% taking a 4 here, which is a par. I'd be great taking a 4 here. If every time I walked up I was guaranteed a 4, that's a great score on this hole. And I think some of our competitors would agree with that, as you can take really large numbers if you end up with an errant drive or an errant upshot. The drive is so important here to land in bounds, but then your second shot comes to a green that narrows all the way down. And once you get to the green, there isn't but 30 or 40 feet from OB to OB. And so it's a really difficult 3. 3 is definitely a bonus. 4 is always, always going to be good.
And it looks like we've caught up with Double G, as in Garrett Girthy, as we're somewhat stalled here on the previous hole. And watching Double G throw a shot.
Yeah, if you get your drive over to the left on this hole, you can play out over the OB fairway on the left side, but you do have to work it all the way back to the right. Double G's disc looks as if it may have trickled OB on the left side, but that's probably the easiest route for birdie. It's also just a risky one over OB the entire way. Here's Jordan Castro. He's thrown a really, really great drive as far as distance goes, but his positioning left to right has kind of left him what I'd say is maybe a bit of a pickle. He needs to throw a really tall hyzer to make sure that it gets back to the left, and it's just tough to cover the distance for as wide as he'll have to swing this shot. Because of that, it looks like he may be lining up a low hyzer instead of the big hyzer out and around the trees.
Jordan Castro coming off of a very strong finish last weekend. I saw him at the Rumble in the Quad Cities of Iowa and the Illinois area. Said he was excited to get in the car and come on down to Emporia, of course, for the Glass Blown Open.
And
not as excited about that shot, though.
That's one of the difficulties that you have on this hole. I mean, you can cover so much distance and then just be stymied on your second shot. And so he has hit a tree and he sat down in the middle of the fairway. More than likely he'll be taking a 4 here, which won't be a problem. If you are going to cover a lot of distance, you do want to be either far to the left or on the right side, as Nate Doss is here. This is a beautiful tee shot, which has given him a fairly open hyzer at the basket. This looks like a predator from Nate. He's played it fairly low and gotten a little skip off the cart path. That's going to be inside circle 1, looking at a birdie 3. Well played by Nate there for sure.
And speaking of Nate Doss, there's a lot of conversation about his health. We saw earlier in the year, for the first time in his entire career, he actually had to withdraw from a tournament that was at the Memorial Championships back in late February, early March. Nate graciously then joined us on the SmashBoxxTV broadcast, where I think he was a really good fit, but I'd rather see him out there being the top-level competitor that he is.
Agreed. He's
worked with Seth over at Disc Golf Strong. In fact, I caught up with Seth just last night, and Seth said they've been doing a number of different activities and strength and conditioning to get Nate back on track, and he was going to go out and try it today, and so far so good, it looks like, from Nate Doss.
Yeah, I mean, with the position, we haven't seen any of his other shots, but with the position he ended up in there, he had to have done something right off the tee. That's no short drive, so well played by Nate. Glad to see you back out there and hope that you can continue staying healthy and playing well.
And a low forehand shot by Castro up this left-hand side. Some people saying they didn't even recognize Jordan Castro. He's been on a personal goal and mission. He's slimmed down considerably. He's been very public about it. And
yeah, over 100 pounds.
It's just absolutely amazing to see. So congratulations very much so to Jordan Castro, who says, he told me this last weekend, he said he's at a weight and he's looking to trim even more off of that. So best of luck to him and congratulations. And speaking of good-looking hair, wait, that's you.
Hey, man.
Clay Smith, thank you, as a super chatter. He says he wanted to donate to the coverage and said it was for the live coverage as well as for the hair. So I assume at least 28 out of his $30 will have to go to your product.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That goes to my personal Dollar Shave Club sponsorship. So thank you, Clay. I appreciate that. We see Rikki Wysocki taking what looks like the same enforcer he threw previously, and he's found the left side. It'll be likely that he has a look at that forehand over the OB fairway on the left. Macbeth is next to tee, and he's gotten a destroyer out flat. That's on a great line if it just finishes to either side. Yeah, that's going to be a great shot for Macbeth. He'll probably opt for the forehand as well, just something overstable that he can trust to get back to the right side.
Putting a different spin, we see Eagle McMahon going with a forehand. Do you feel strongly about the forehand or the backhand drive off the tee here?
Whatever gets you in the right position and is comfortable is the right play. I've tried playing a forehand out here. I don't have the strongest forehand, but just something that gets to the right is great, because that Eagles played it perfectly. He's going to have for himself a relatively easy hyzer, either up and over the trees or kind of a low screamer along the cart path for his look at birdie 3. And Simon's just gone to mash town. That is crushed. Wow. He caught the very last, or the very first tree in the fairway, still with some momentum. Had it not hit that tree, I think that's probably the farthest drive I've seen on that hole. Assuming that he rolled out to one side or another, he's going to have a pretty easy look at birdie.
Well, there's always a question as to which Simon Lizotte are we going to see on any given round. Is it going to be an incredibly aggressive Simon Lizotte, utilizing all of his strength and all of his tools and going for every big shot, or are we going to see him a little bit more conservative, where maybe he's more concerned about his scoring than he is about wowing the crowd or any of the thousands of viewers that are out there internationally and beyond. So thank you guys for joining us, and it'll be exciting to see how Simon Lizotte plays out the rest of this round.
Absolutely. This is a course that can play to Simon's strengths if he wants them to. Like, he throws so far that he can make some of these holes be really, really easy, but he has to throw far accurately. That's one of the difficulties of country club, as we've spoken about earlier. If you look at the course map, it just has OB, 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 OB. You cannot be loose with basically any shot out on this course, or you run the risk of finding the out-of-bounds area.
Well, as these guys are moving into their second positions, we're going to soon have Eric Mccabe join us here. I think I'm going to catch up with him for just a few moments. We'll talk a little bit about his great round that he had out there. I'd like to get a few of the details. And there's no one that knows the course, I would say, any more intimately than one Eric Mccabe.
I'd agree with that.
Is that a fair way to?
Yeah. If you design the course, you probably know it better than most everybody. So
that could be true, except for a few projects I've worked on. I know I've had the pleasure of going out, getting a great piece of land. I get to put in a great course, and then sometimes I never get back to it.
Sorry, it was fun while it lasted.
Exactly. All right, we'll get Eric in here in a moment. Thank you, Robert, as I'm watching Eagle McMahon line up his second shot. And now joining me here on the mic, I've got Eric Mccabe, your 2010 world champion.
Ooh, that seems like so long ago.
Oh, it seems like yesterday to me, buddy.
It does.
I was
to
there
me
watching
too.
it happen.
Yeah, Johnny V. He did the filming on his iPhone. I remember it to this day.
Some early days back in the live streaming world, and here we are out at Emporia Country Club. We were here a few years ago for the World Championships, live streaming that as well, and we're so excited to be back to the Glass Blown, an event that you hold very near and dear to your heart, possibly more than any other?
Oh, absolutely, hands down. Easily more than any other event that we host or that I've been to or anything. So.
And now today we see you busting out a pretty solid round as we're watching Macbeth's approach shot, and it sits down inbounds. A great opening round. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's start with the first question.
Yes.
MPO versus MPM.
Yeah.
You're not playing Masters where you're eligible.
Yeah. Well, I'd pushed for so long for the MPO to only have to play one course throughout the week at Glass Blown Open, because I think that's what the top touring players really want to do. And the fact that, we finally, Rusko and Doug kind of gave us the green light, and so I had to do it. I had to play Open. I had to play MPO this weekend.
We're watching Rikki Wysocki, who I think just pinned his approach shot. They're on hole number 5. Why don't you give us a little bit of your talk or your insights to hole number 5?
Hole 5 is, in my opinion, I think Robert may have said it as well, the hardest par 4 on the course. It may be a little harder to get your 3, maybe not on 18, but hole 5 traditionally used to be hole number 3. The tee shot is very critical. You almost have to be left close to the OB or right close to the OB to be able to tack the green, because this was my bogey of the day, this hole. I had a brilliant tee shot right down the middle, but it was too in the middle. And I could have gone out wide, but it would have been too tight of a hyzer, so I chose to go mid-range right up the middle and just clip the tree and kick left OB. So I had to just throw up and take my bogey on that hole. But, man, this is such a great hole. At the green, it's so tight up there. You've really got to commit to your shot.
Well, and I'm going to pull up, again, with udisclive.com. I'll pull up some of your stats, look at it. I see, like you said, the one blemish, hole number 5. You took the bogey 5. Otherwise, obviously, very clean out there throughout. You just had that one little patch of pars, which probably aren't too bad on 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah, those 3 holes are pretty difficult to get the birdie on anyway. So I had a couple great birdies out there that I usually, don't get as well. So those are always great. And anytime you get a deuce on the island is it a good day. It's always a good day.
And a birdie there by Paul Macbeth as he comes in on hole number 5. We're looking at Simon Lizotte, who hit one of the early trees. He went with an aggressive roller right off the bat. What do you think of that play?
That's kind of ballsy, in my opinion, I guess I would say. But when you're Simon, you can do things like that. Although it's kind of surprising because I think he could just throw a nice little air shot and get 3/4 of the way down the fairway and have just a little pitch up. But, if you're feeling it, you're feeling it. I guess that's kind of the way it goes.
So we're going to be looking at hole number 6 here in a few moments. Again, Eric Mccabe joining me in studio. We're at the Dynamic Disc Distribution Center. What are we looking at when we're lining up this next hole?
Hole 6 is it's 324 feet, straight uphill. There's a bunker and a green on the right side. But this is a hole that you're going to want to get your birdie on. It's probably one of the easiest par 3s on the course, I would say, to score on. So kind of throwing that in there after the most difficult par 4, it kind of makes sense. So you can kind of relax a little bit, take a breath, and really all you want to do on this hole is throw at the heart of that bunker right in front of you and just let it hyzer out for righties at least.
Well, I'll give you a few stats. We're looking at the single easiest hole relative to par, so you nailed it there. 176 people have already played it today. 44% of the players have come in under par on the hole. 48% have come in at par and 8% above par. So playing as a 2.64, definitely one of those must-get birdies that we speak of.
Absolutely. You got to get that one. Got to get hole 6.
What exactly would you say is the play at 324 feet?
For me, I throw just a nice flat enforcer up to the right side. Kind of aim at when the flag stick is in, I aim right at the flag stick just above it on the green. And nice and flat and hard and high. And as soon as it starts to lose speed, it just wants to dump left. And there's one lone tree in the middle of the fairway off to the left side. That's the only thing you've really got to avoid. Lefties can come into the left side of it and righties to the right side. So it's for these guys, it should just be a dump hyzer for all guys on this card at least.
And we're watching Double G, Garrett Gurthey, as he makes his putt.
Long. He's long, of course.
I was just going to say, one has to assume that was his drive that had gone long past the basket as Nate Doss taps in. What else would you like to share with us, Eric, as we're about to see the next card get ready to throw? Anything else you'd like to share from your round out there today?
It was a fun round. I had a great card.
Yeah, who else were you playing with?
I had the honor of playing with Chris Clemens, the highest-rated lefty in the world.
Yep.
Nathan Sexton, who's one of my good friends from way back, and Big Germ.
Wow.
So it was actually filmed by Central Coast.
Awesome.
So you'll see some post-production coming out of that card, and it was just great fun. I mean, we had a pretty good-sized gallery following us around, good energy, and like I said, all three of those guys are good friends of mine. So I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
Wysocki, who's sitting at 4 under through 5 holes, and he's looking for that one to come in, and
yeah, it did. That's in Rikki range for sure.
There's not much that's not.
No, that's true.
With the way Rikki Wysocki plays.
It's kind of a good history lesson here, or stat. This was the first hole aced at Emporia Country Club
By
David Feldberg.
Ah.
Yeah.
That might be a quiz or question later on in the week, so you may want to store that one in the data bank.
Paul doing what Paul does.
Now, how are the winds and the conditions for you out there this morning, and are they any different from what we're seeing as Eagles about to tee?
Not really. I mean, sure, when we first start, I mean, we teed off at high noon, so that's usually when the wind will start to pick up a little bit. But no, it was 5-7 mile an hour out there. I mean, every now and then you would feel a gust kind of pop up for the a tee shot, but for the most part, no, the wind was non-existent, and pretty much like it is here. I mean, you can see the feather flags moving a little bit, but they're really not blowing like normal GBO wind, you know.
Exactly. I think people are probably a little confused, or they should be confused, because we're so used to seeing these crazy wind gusts and steady and constant winds throughout the entire week taking place. But thus far, they're getting a little bit of a treat during this opening round.
Well, I know Doug Bjork has put in an order in early for pretty good weather instead of having the rain and the wind and all that. So you guys can all thank Doug for that.
I think everybody can thank Doug for a lot of things.
Yes,
He's been around there working really hard. In fact, someone even on the board just asked, should we be already planning for GBO 2019? And I'd say give these guys another 48 hours.
All the way down the road, for sure.
Last night we were treated to a pro panel, as well as people were allowed to go out there and watch and consume the players meeting. What a exciting time to be there. We had to actually move locations from the Granada Theater over to the auditorium that we were in last night to accommodate for so many potential players on the players meeting. That had to feel really good looking out in the front of that crowd.
You know, I got to go up on stage a couple times to do a little presentation of the glass-blown trophy and a couple other things there, and just looking out amongst all the people was just, it's almost mind-blowing, you know, just that many people here. And that wasn't even all the players, because ValueNet live-streamed the opening ceremony. So if we had ValueNet, like all the bars in town, Radius was all live streaming it, and that's pretty cool. Where else do you get that?
Nowhere.
Emporia.
Emporia is Emporia knows disc golf.
They do.
And we love being here so much for so many different reasons, and the support that we get as we watch Eagle McMahon cash in a nice long birdie there. It's great to be here. There's so many great golfers in the community, everyone. We could just really go on and on for hours about it, but
easily, yeah.
Glad to be here. And
yeah, absolutely.
We'll see if Lizotte can follow up McMahon's birdie putt.
Oh. That's not Simon-like.
No, and Simon was a little bit low a few holes ago, as he had a putt from one knee that he hit off the front of the basket. So Simon off to a little bit of a slow start. Wysocki here lining up for what seems to be about 25, maybe 28 feet. And Wysocki converts. So we're looking at likely 3 birdies out of the 4 competitors on hole number 6.
You know Simon's not too happy about that missed putt either.
And he cleans up, and we see the flag not blowing in this case, but
it could be a little deceiving. These are brand new flags. So I went out one day and tried to judge from the wind on the flag, and it was like hard as a rock because they were brand new. So
a little too much starch in those.
Were you
guys out there ironing them?
Yeah, ironing before the rounds, and give it a couple weeks. We'll see what they look like.
All right, Mac. Well, if you've got anything else to share, we'd love to hear it as they're transitioning over to hole number 7. Anything else?
I don't think so. Just thanks everybody for tuning in, and Smashbox obviously for coming out and filming, recording, doing all that you guys do. It's pretty awesome to see, you know, all this going on, and I can't wait for next year already.
All right. Well, we can't wait to see how you perform over the next 2 rounds. Hopefully we'll see you on the cameras, whether it's live or post-production or a little bit of both. We're looking forward to seeing a great performance out of you here in the hometown. And I was going to say, you're going to make everyone proud, but you've already done that. So go out there, have a great week, enjoy yourself. And
the rest of this week to me is just, you know, whatever happens, happens. I'm having a good time regardless.
All right. All right, Eric Mccabe,
Thanks,
your
Terry.
2010 world champion. Also, he's told me he's the smartest man out of the Disc Golf Answer Man podcast. I think that could be debated here in the studio. We're going to have Robert McCall rejoin. Robert, we watched through, what are we through, 6 holes or so, and we're going to get back to the action. Maybe you can tell us what people can expect here. I see a lot more OB and another par 4 on hole number 7.
That's right. Hole 7, I think, plays relatively easy as far as the par 4s go out here at Country Club. The drive is downhill all the way. For our competitors, it'll be a relatively big hyzer, and then just an upshot that has to navigate a few trees up to the basket. The distance is not the problem here. It's just finding a good spot for your upshot. This hole plays under par for the day at 3.76. So we've got 39% of the field birdieing this hole today, 49% taking par, only a few bogeys at 11%, and then just a few over that. This, for me, it's not a must-get 3, but competitors will not be happy taking a 4, definitely anything worse than that.
All right, and we're back with what looks like Nate Doss as we catch up with our second-to-last card of the day that went out. I believe this was the 2:50 start time.
Yeah, these guys have the distance to just, you can see, once we get back to the tee, you'll be able to see one tree that's just straight off the tee. If they just throw a hyzer at that and it finishes left, they should have a decently easy up and down. Maybe some trees on the right side if they stay over there, maybe a straight shot on the left, but for these guys, a routine shot. It looks like this is Castro's drive. He's thrown an enforcer, and it looks like he's got a putter in his hand or maybe a mid-range for his upshot. So they're covering quite a bit of distance on their drive.
Jordan trying to keep it low and puts himself right up next to the pin.
Yeah, he's done so to perfection. When I'm playing out here, if I take a 4, it means that usually it means I threw a bad upshot, because you can land your drive in a lot of good places. You just need to convert on that upshot.
And the players right now are actually making their way up here on hole number 7. This is plays back up towards the clubhouse, and you may have seen that in the background just a moment ago. That's where I believe there's going to be a little extra action taking place at the clubhouse tonight. Is that what's in store?
There could be. That's possible.
Let's check with the lawyers.
Yeah, we're gonna check that out. No, we do have the GBO poker party, the old poker round.
Excellent.
And yeah, that's going to be happening. I'm pretty sure they're still having that at the Country Club. That's where they've had it in years past. And we get to see which of our players, really know what they're doing in poker, and which of them just kind of ride on their, disc golf celebrity. Ooh, he's got it. These are the best. We see some of those. So it's always entertaining. Usually the people that end up winning are not the best disc golfers, because, they stick to doing the disc golf thing.
See a step putt approach. I know that should get the internet blazing right now, having the step putt conversation.
We've seen
come
some people talking
into play.
about that. Yeah,
yes.
with the Texas State coverage and Trevor Harbolt, a lot of people have had a whole lot of things to say about his step putt. So if your team step putt, good for you, and if you're not, well, good for you. Everyone can have an opinion. It's fine.
And a great putt by Double G.
Nate Doss puts it in the middle. That'll be his birdie 3 there. Again, these competitors are not looking to take 4 here. So any score worse than 3, it doesn't feel the worst. It's not like you just missed, a 200-foot par 3, but it might as well be that at this point.
And it looks like we're coming back to the action on the tee here of hole number 7. Rikki Wysocki out taking a look and seeing what's going on up in front, just over the hillside. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us here. This is the opening round of the 2018 Glass Blown Open presented by Dynamic Discs. Robert McCall and Terry Miller, the disc golf guy. We are here on the 7th hole of this opening round. Rikki Wysocki sits 5 under par and is currently in a tie for 5th.
Rikki's drive is kind of just a low line drive down the middle. Depending on the ground action that he gets, he may have a difficult upshot, but basically anywhere that you land inbounds will afford you an opportunity to get up to the green.
And Macbeth, who bags about 10 different destroyers. Anytime you want to just assume what driver is being thrown, you could probably just throw that out.
And he's let his drive go a little bit farther left than he wanted to, but has settled inbounds. And because he has a proficient forehand, he will have an open forehand up to the basket. Eagles put a bit of turn on that drive, and he has got a ton of distance on this. That's going to miss the tree in the fairway and be well past the ditch. He won't be throwing, but maybe a putter up to the basket from there. That is a massive drive from Eagle. And here's one of the only people in the world that can outdo him sometimes. Simon Lizotte has also put a huge move on this disc, tracking back to the left, and he's just barely squeaked out in front of Eagle. Yeah, I think he's probably turning to him and saying, "Hey, buddy, anything you can do?"
I can do it.
Yeah, I can also do
Maybe
it.
better.
Maybe better, but I can at least do it as well.
What we're going to do right now, again, Robert and Terry Miller, we're going to check in with what we're seeing over on the FPO side. They're playing at a different course here today. They're going to be playing 3 different courses throughout the weekend, actually. And today is their opening round. Starting at 3 o'clock was Paige Pierce's card along with Rebecca Cox. And right now they're through 6 holes and they're in the lead. That's right. Paige Pierce, Rebecca Cox, Zoe Andike, and Colleen Thompson are all sitting at 2 under par. Thanks to UDisc Live, we can see that Paige Pierce is actually putting for a double bogey right now, so she will likely relinquish her share of the lead after this hole, but she's got plenty of golf left. As we noted earlier, if you're just tuning into the broadcast, Cottonwood Falls has a stretch of holes in the middle of it that plays extremely wooded and can be very punishing if players choose to be either aggressive or are a little bit loose with their tee shots. You definitely have to hit gaps and find your landing spots throughout the middle stretch of that course. That is exactly the stretch of course that Paige and Rebecca find themselves in right now. And we're over here on hole number 8, which is a little bit of a different look. We'll talk about it more as our featured card gets to it, but a moment ago we saw Double G Garrett Gerthy teeing off. This is, of course, a revision from the previous hole number 1, and Nate Doss is about to tee second. We've moved the tee down from the deck of the swimming pool down to just below it. I like this change because it makes it a more attackable hole. It's still an extremely difficult 2. Extremely difficult. You have to carry a lot of out of bounds if you throw out over the trees on the right side to park this hole. So most of the best drives that we'll see will be big hyzers that finish left of the basket around, I don't know, 40 or 50 feet. These players have the ability to put it closer, but every time they push it just a little bit farther, they're carrying more out of bounds to get there. So it becomes riskier and riskier on the way. I believe this is Chris Sagone, who is here on this card. He's teeing 3rd, and he's watching to see. It looks like that might have found some OB. And in a moment, we can come back. We've seen Rikki Wysocki a moment ago had approached. Also, Paul Macbeth had thrown their approach shots relatively effortlessly. And now we have Eagle McMahon throwing his sidearm approach. Yeah, just an easy pitch hyzer that he is pulled a little bit to the left and found a tree. It looks like he's going to be inside circle 2, but certainly not the result he was looking for after such a long drive. Simon just takes a straight putter at the basket and nearly taps the pole. That'll be an easy birdie 3 for him. And they're going to move up the fairway. Let's take a look at our overall round 1 scores that we're seeing come in from UDisc. I mentioned earlier Drew Gibson came in with a 10 under par. Grady Shue was first in with a 10 under par, and then right behind him, Eric Mccabe, who we had a few moments ago, and Andrew Presnell is now in the clubhouse with a 7 under par. Rikki Wysocki looking pretty good, 5 under through 6 so far.
Yeah, we've got some really good hot rounds out on the course right now. Rikki 5 under through 6, Jordan Castro 5 under through 7, and then Paul Macbeth 4 under through 6 right now, looking to make that 5. Andrew Presnell's had a really good year this year. He's come out and shown some people what he's made of. He's had some great finishes and some incredibly hot rounds. We see Eagles miss on the forehand has left him with a longer putt than he desired, and he's just left that putt low. That's going to be a par 4 for him here. But excited to see Andrew Presnell play well. He's a great guy from in the Midwest. He's from Missouri, and just a fantastic player.
As expected, Macbeth converts on his birdie 3. And Rikki taking almost no time to complete the birdie. Rikki seems to be dialed in and off to a really good start here through 7 holes. And Simon taking full advantage of the power and the distance and easily tapping in for the birdie here on hole number 7.
Here in Emporia, we don't have a lot of obstacles on our courses, so it can seem like having a big forehand wouldn't be necessary, yet a lot of pros seem to really rely on theirs. Why is that? That's so they can always throw a hyzer. Throwing a hyzer and keeping the disc on the same angle the whole time is going to be a lot more accurate and net lower scores overall. Stay tuned for more tips here at the 2018 Glass Blown Open.
Welcome back, everyone. Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, along with Robert McCall. Robert, 1,600 people here, more than 1,600 people for this year's GBO. And right now we've caught up again with Jordan Castro, who's going to be lining up what I believe is his second shot. Give us a little breakdown on some of the numbers that we're seeing with 1,600 people at the GBO.
Well, in years past, we've had a really large tournament out here at the GBO. The 2017 GBO had 1,079 competitors. The 2016 GBO had 1,120 competitors, which at the time were either the largest disc golf event that year or the second or third. They very, very large events. Having 1,602 competitors here in Emporia this year has just smashed the record attendance for an event. We are so excited to host all these people in Emporia and to show them what disc golf is all about. I love how much the city of Emporia embraces disc golf. One of the coolest things that's happened since I've been here is I went to Commercial Street Diner this morning. I was eating breakfast with AJ Risley and Zach Melton and Seth Munsey this morning. And I got back to my car, was getting ready to come over here to the warehouse, and I watched one of the store owners walk out a sign with flowers on it and with a chalkboard that said "Welcome Disc Golfers," and I was just like, that encapsulates everything that happens here in Emporia. The city really rolls out the red carpet for disc golfers and welcomes them in. If you are a competitor here, you're likely to have somebody ask you how your round is going. Ask you how you're playing this week, what you've been enjoying so far. It's just great to see a city embrace disc golf the way that they do.
Watching Chris as he taps out here on hole number 8. Just when I felt like I maybe was going to hit my stride with walking around these courses, visiting here for a few years, you guys go ahead and redesign the course and change up a bunch of the holes. I appreciate that.
That's correct. You know what we were doing is just basically to say, in your face, Terry, you really should have come here earlier.
You guys should know by now that any complications or challenges you put in front of me are going to further make my life difficult.
Yeah. That's what we're here for. keep you on your toes, man.
I don't know about that.
I love the changes to Country Club. I think the course flows better. As I said, it's more fair across the board. Some of the changes make the holes just better holes, plain and simple. Sometimes more difficult to reach. Maybe they require 2 good shots instead of 1 good shot and 1 okay shot to get your look at a birdie 3. I really enjoy this course. I love playing out here.
And Rikki Wysocki's waiting for that card to clean off, or clear out, I should say. And it looks like Ricky's going to be ready to go here in just a moment. Ricky's starting out very hot. We've got him 6 under par through 7 holes.
Rikki's taking the big hyzer out around the trees. It's tough to know if he's playing. No, he's not playing for the basket at all, just trying to get it over to the left side. And it looks like he's actually skipped across the cart path out of bounds, if that was in fact his disc that we saw land. He will be none too pleased with that drive. Rikki is, until today, the current course record holder out here at Emporia Country Club. It dates back to the 2016 World Championship. I believe he shot a 53 or 51 or something just really ridiculous. Since the course layout is different now, we'll have some different course record holders. Right now, that's tied by Grady Shue and Drew Gibson, who both came in with 53s today. Saw Macbeth take the hyzer route, and it looks as if we'll see Simon Lizotte do the same.
Now, players need to be really committed as to whether or not they're going fully at this pin. Is that correct?
Absolutely. If they want to play safe, you can just saw off a hyzer. As long as there's not too much wind, it's relatively easy to get a 3 playing the hyzer. But Simon has bitten off a lot of the OB on the way to the basket and looks as if he's landed right at the edge of circle 1. Great play by him. Eagle's also taken a hyzer, but it kind of looked like a lazy hyzer. He may just be playing for the 3.
And these guys are going to move down the fairway. We're going to also quickly check back in with our MPO scores to see if anything has changed up. You know, the same 4 are in the positions that they were in. Wysocki sits at that 6 under. Paul Macbeth sits at 5 under, along with George Smith, Nate Sexton, and Austin Hannum. So we're seeing a few of the hottest scorers are, in fact, the card that you're watching right now with Lizotte, Wysocki, and Macbeth all in the top 10.
Definitely, and this isn't a coincidence. These are several of the best players in the world. I mean, you could argue four of the top. I mean, you don't have to assign a number. These guys are all right at the top of the game, definitely in the elite level of players. So to see them putting up good scores is no surprise. I do want to see someone just pop off something ridiculous, and I'm extremely interested to see if it'll be one of these guys today or if we'll have to wait for another day this week to do that.
Well, there's going to be plenty of action for everyone to consume. We've got Central Coast Disc Golf out here getting some post-production footage, as Eric Mccabe mentioned earlier. Jomez is out here getting some footage as well. And on the FPO side, Central Coast is also going to be recording the feature and lead cards out there throughout the week as well. So live and post-production will be coming at you throughout the entire week.
Yes, sir. Now we're back with Rikki Wysocki after he's thrown his drive out of bounds. That's a really uncharacteristic miss for Rikki. There is a lot of room to land to the left. He may have either just let his disc slip out early or just not quite committed to his angle. Either way, he's placed his upshot within 5 feet of the basket, so he'll be taking a bogey 4, minimal damage after throwing out of bounds here.
We have to mention again the gallery out there, quite sizable for a Thursday afternoon, as Macbeth gives that a run and goes just deep past the basket.
Wow, it's extremely aggressive. I like it.
Eagle McMahon from the right side of the fairway, and that really looks like he was fully committed to a layup there, as opposed to what we just saw from Macbeth.
Yeah, once you're over there, if you are a right-handed player, if your putter hyzers out just a little bit, it can easily catch edge and roll to the water, or even just kind of fade off to the water as the ground does slope from right to left for our competitors. So this is a good place to be conservative. Just take your 3. It's a lot of risk to get a 2. And well, Simon's a guy who likes risk, so here's his birdie look. Oh, and just off the band. That's the hardest part about disc golf is. So Simon throws a spectacular drive. I mean, you almost couldn't draw it up much better than that. But since he can't convert it, it'll just be a regular old 3 like the rest of the gentlemen who played it safe and found themselves in bounds, you know.
While giving himself a chance and a look at the opportunity, however, not able to convert. And this is Macbeth. He's got a little bit of a tester, as we mentioned, a very aggressive second shot. Usually anything inside the circle you can all but count.
And that's high out of his hand, but does settle in the basket. So that'll just be a routine 3. Maybe not routine, as in that's how he wanted to draw it up, but it's a 3. No pictures, just a 3.
And we've got some more action over here from our second to final card on the day. This is Jordan Castro.
And if I had to guess, we didn't see Jordan's drive, but if I had to guess, it looks like he might have thrown that out of bounds off of his drive. This hole 9's fairway plays right to left sloping, and the play is really just to turn something slightly over that flies straight and then just lands softly. It's extremely easy to throw something fast that gets a little skippy and finds water on the left side. So yeah, it looks as if we're trying to determine where Double G's disc went out of bounds as well. Hole 9 is on the course as a par 3. For me, I think it's a debatable par 3. It is a I think it's a par 4 for me. I always play it for a 3. I doubt we'll see more than 1 or 2 2s on it today. I know I saw one earlier from someone who had a decently long throw in, a little over 100 feet on that.
So as you can see here right now, they are in fact determining where they were last inbounds, and then they're going to give themselves up to a 1 meter relief from that spot.
Mm-hmm.
And this card is in fact, of course, in front of our featured card, so we'll be able to stick with them, see a little action from this great card. A few moments ago, I was talking about seeing Jordan Castro at the Rumble in the Quad Cities of Iowa last weekend as he finished in the top few spots. Garrett Gurthey was also on that final featured card during the last round.
Oh, it's hard to tell if that trickled in bounds or not, but that is a huge mistake from Garrett Gurthey. It's as if he was just playing a hyzer to skip back in bounds and didn't quite get the skip that he wanted. It looks like he can probably tell better than we can, so looks as if he has stayed out of bounds and hadn't gotten any of the ground play he expected. That is a brutal mistake for Double G there. He's hung this one just as far out to the right, but has gotten the skip. Oh dear, that's playing with fire over there. Any grass on the right side of the cart path, you're risking that disc just sitting down with no skip.
Nate Doss reaches back for his approach. He finds himself on the left side. Is it fair to say that when you're looking at this fairway and you're playing toward the pin, that left side fairway might be a little bit easier when you're lining up your approaches?
The left side is certainly more advantageous for your drive to land on. The difficulty is actually landing your drive on the left side because of the slope of the fairway. You can land something on just a slight hyzer angle almost in the middle of the fairway and get unlucky with the skip down to the basket. If you can get over to the left, that's where you're going to find your most open upshot. But if you play down the middle, this is still a very gettable 3. As I said earlier, I think it plays as a par 4, an easy par 4, an extremely difficult par 3 in my opinion. We see Chris with a standstill approach to the basket that is spiked in right and then rolled to the left. Looks like he should be sitting pretty good right there. I'm assuming that's his drive, and if it is, that's a great spot to be.
And the group is walking up, trying to determine if that is in fact finding any part of the inbounds area.
So that was a provisional from Double G earlier.
Oh, and look at that. And they're going to get down and try and get every possible angle at it. As you may or may not know, the OB line itself is considered out of bounds. So at some point, a disc must find itself touching some type of inbounds area. And from the angle we're looking at, and again, there's going to be photos which will be irrelevant later, as this video is irrelevant later in terms of
making a call.
Making a call at least, but it looks like they are in fact going to be calling that inbounds.
Yeah, the beauty of disc golf and part of the camaraderie of disc golf is in the rules it's written so that if a call is too close to call, if you just truly cannot make a decision because it's too close, the benefit of the doubt goes to the player. And so Double G's card looks like they weren't able to decipher if his disc was in fact definitively out of bounds or definitively inbounds. when that is the case, they give him the benefit of the doubt, and he's gotten to play from inside circle 2, and he's just pitched up. He'll be taking a 4 here.
Robert, we have to be, as we've caught up with this card, we have to be asking the next question, which is, do you think that the flow will, or the pace, I should say, will pick up as we move throughout the rest of the course, or do you think we're going to maybe run into a few more speed bumps?
For the most part, I think that our speed will be pretty good after we get past this. There are a couple of relatively difficult holes that might be causing backups for the gentleman in front of our featured card. The next hole plays down a valley and back up, and so there's plenty of OB there. It's easy to find out of bounds and then go to a drop zone, and that just slows some things down. And so we may have a few more backups, but it feels like traffic is moving pretty nicely. I do like the way that we've renumbered throughout this course, so that there's less long walks between holes. See Jordan Castro lining up for what I believe will be his sorry, it's not a par 4. What I believe will be his 4 here after what we believe was an OB drive. Jordan keeps it nice and low in the wind and sneaks that putt in the basket. Nate Doss has thrown picture perfect upshot, and it will tap in for his 3. And the same goes for Chris here. Nicely played by these gentlemen.
And in another screen, we see Paul Macbeth getting ready. We're going to be able to cut over to him. He was just getting ready to throw. They can't actually see the basket from where they were at, so they're kind of waiting for the gallery or cheers, some kind of audible cue.
Macbeth has put a great angle on that disc. As long as it hasn't gotten too far over to the right, he's going to be really happy with that result. Another play that Simon is showing us here is just a hyzer out over the cart path that swings back in left to the fairway. As long as that lands on hyzer, yeah, he should be in a good spot. It's tough to get all the way to the water from there.
And it looks like Eagle McMahon is maybe even second-guessing himself a little bit as to which disc he's going to throw with. We're seeing what looks to be a left-to-right wind possibly pushing in that direction.
Across the board, that left-to-right one is going to keep discs from wanting to get over to the water, but it can also hang errant drives over the cart path and not allow them to push back quite like the players had hoped that they would.
And Wysocki trying to do something to recover a little bit from the mishap on the previous hole as we're going to move down the fairway. We're going to be able to actually come right over to you, sticking with this second to last card, Jordan Castro. Possibly morphing into another dimension there for a moment. I know he's transitioning his body, but
he is the one.
Now we find both OB on the left and right side of this fairway, Robert. This is a pretty challenging tee shot, isn't it?
Definitely a challenging tee shot. Right off the tee, elevation drops probably 15 to 20 feet, and then back up the hill and over to the right to play to the basket. Wind can do crazy things in this valley, and there is used to the right side of the fairway wasn't OB at all. You could throw in there and bail out and maybe still have an opportunity to get up to the basket. This year, that is marked as out of bounds, and so this difficult tee shot became even more difficult this year. A great play is to throw something kind of medium stable down the middle and just work it to the right a bit. You don't want something finishing hard left because things filter across the cart path almost all the time.
Here is Lizotte throwing his approach shot, and I spoke of it a moment ago about being in the middle of the fairway, and it's almost as if you'd rather be pushing the right side or the left side, and when you're right in the middle, you just have a few more trees to contend with.
That's right. You can still navigate up and get a 3 on this hole for sure. It's not the advantageous place in the fairway to be, but these guys are professionals. They've played in substantially more trees than there are here. So getting up and down shouldn't be a problem for them from basically any part of this fairway. We see Rikki take a forehand harp up to the basket, and that's pretty much how you draw it up. That's going to be textbook for him. Good play by Rikki. And Eagles Drive has found a great spot in the fairway, just an easy, probably a putter hyzer up to the basket for him. And that's executed to perfection.
All right, well, welcome back as we're trying to kind of keep keep up to date with everything that we can. We're seeing both a little bit from the message board. We're also trying to check out udisclive.com, bringing you all the details from around the course. Soon we'll be talking about what we're seeing on the FPO side of things. A few moments ago we saw that Paige Pierce was in the lead, but she was also putting for a double bogey at the time. So we'll get back to them in a few moments. Right now we're on hole number 9. And we're switching actually back and forth, 9 and 10, as we're bringing you some of the action from around the course. Simon Lizotte has converted on hole number 9 for his birdie. We're watching Chris on hole number 10.
This one's actually, as we said earlier, this is actually a par 3, so that's going to just be a par for Simon. It's just the longest par 3
in the world.
Yeah,
planet.
That's right. Unless we miss something, it looks like that's going to be a bunch of 3s for our competitors, and that's kind of what you expect to see on that hole. As long as you can keep your drive with something fairly neutral in the fairway, the approach is not difficult at all. After a good drive for Jordan Castro, he's going to be eyeing up a forehand approach to 10's basket. 10 actually has a new basket placement this year. It has moved from its original placement. It has moved back and to the right into the woods, and then the woods line is marked out of bounds. And so Jordan's taken a forehand, and that is a perfect shape to fit this basket cut into the woods. He's gotten a green flag from the spotter. He will likely be inside circle 1.
Nate Doss will also have a standstill approach. I believe that's a challenger, probably just a little bit of a turn on it to get it out and around.
That's a great shot. Really, the forehand is a great shape into the screen, but if a player is proficient with the turnover, anywhere in this fairway will afford them an opportunity to get up to the basket.
I'd like to thank Gary to the O, who is out there with our second card as he's following along, trying to give us plenty of action. We hope that you enjoy a little bit of yet another new thing we've tried in some of the stabilization as we're moving down the fairways for the times where we actually have to stick with our players in the fairway. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Look forward to more action throughout the next 2 days. We're going to be coming in at 3 p.m. Central, both Friday and Saturday. And I think we're going to be blessed with a little bit better cell signal as we move into the next 2 days. And we'll also have the FPO footage to cut over to more frequently so we can check in with just more than the scores from over there. And Nate Doss cleans up. Seeing Double G back on tour this year. Many of you may not be familiar with them, but if you've been watching some of the live action or recorded action from the Pro Tour and other big events, Double G certainly climbing back up, finding himself on or near those leaderboards week in and week out. Just one of the nicest guys in the world, and also happens to be one of the furthest throwers as well.
Watching Double G throw it's crazy because his form isn't traditional, so to speak. He does one of the things that I'd say a lot of disc golf teachers would tell you not to do, but he's been throwing that way for so long and has developed his form so well that he throws effortlessly, and it just, until you see it in person, you don't really understand how impressive it is. But man, he can just mash on a disc. That's all there is to it.
It is. Well, it's very impressive. We're going to try and give you guys more scores as we're watching Paul Macbeth get lined up here on hole number 10. We'll bring you some action. Paul seems to be in position and ready to go.
This looks like a T-bird 3 from Macbeth, and that's a great choice. That neutral fairway driver that's just going to pretty much fly straight, maybe a little bit right, a little bit left. That sort of disc is a great choice for a hole like this, and he's basically put that disc in position A. That's a perfect spot. He can throw a backhand turnover from there to the basket if he wants. He can throw a forehand. That is extremely well played. Simon's taking what looks like a faster disc and slightly more overstable, and he needs that to get down. And it's just trickled across the cart path. Almost worked a little ways back across the cart path to the fairway, but that is going to settle out of bounds. He'll be proceeding to the drop zone, and that's just a mistake you just can't make here. This year's drop zone on hole 10 is slightly less punitive than in years past. The previous drop zone was all the way back on the cart path and was almost impossible, maybe not almost impossible, but an extremely technical, extremely difficult shot to get up to the green and to get a look at the basket. This drop zone has, I think it affords our players a little bit better opportunity to get up and down and still to save their par if they do throw an errant tee shot. Rikki Wysocki's taken that same first run enforcer that he's been leaning on, and he's hung it out over the OB on the right side, waiting for confirmation from the spotter whether he is safe or not, and he ends up out of bounds. That is a mistake by Rikki Wysocki here on hole 10.
Hole number 11 rejoining with double G, as he is getting ready to tee off.
Hole 11 is a downhill straight shot that moves just slightly to the right. So something like, for double G, something like a mid-range will be a good choice, but for most mortal players, a fairway driver or something that's just slightly faster will be a good choice to get down to the basket. This does have OB that tucks pretty close on the right side. And so if a player turns their disc just a bit too much, they can quickly find the out-of-bounds area. We see double G finding the out-of-bounds. This will be Jordan Castro. Headwind makes this hole play pretty difficult. You really don't want to get a disc over in the wind, but that's what you have to do in order to get down to the basket. Castro's line looks clean. He gets, I guess, a spirited reaction from the spotter, and he gets a green flag. So maybe he pushed the right side just a little bit too much.
Well, and as we're taking a look, we watched a moment ago Rikki Wysocki. He picked up his disc with a little bit of frustration. But taking a brief look at the leaderboard, not much has changed. Our top four, or should I say top five, in the same exact spots. Rikki actually dipping into that tie for fifth. Nate Doss sits at 5 under par. He's through 10 holes, as we've seen. George Smith also at 5 under par, along with Austin Hannum and Nate Sexton. So 5 under par seems to be a pretty popular spot to be right now.
That's right. I think for our competitors this week, it looks like, you know, somewhere around a 5 or 6 under par is going to put you top quarter of the field or so. I don't think that's going to get anybody to a lead card at this point, but that's going to be a solid score. Certainly not an awful round, not a bad round, but just something to build off of. I'm sure they have, the people who finished at 5 under, I'm sure they have opportunities that they missed that they'd like to have back. So you get a look at the new drop zone this year. Like I said, less punitive than in years past. This is a straight backhand shot or even a forehand into the screen. Rikki narrowly stays in bounds. The woods on the right side are marked out of bounds this year, which is a change from years past. And so that does add another element of challenge to this hole.
Both Wysocki along with Lizotte have thrown their approaches. This is Eagle McMahon. And flirts with that OB line, but does get, in fact, the green flag. He's inbounds. Real quickly, shout out to all of the spotters, some of which are working 12, 14-hour days. Just an incredible amount of work out there. I know Jackie has been, in fact, the volunteer coordinator, so shout out to her as well for all the efforts and energies that she's put in. Just an amazing event, and you're talking about hundreds of hands on deck to make it happen.
Absolutely, and it's, you know, having gone from just being a sponsored team player to moving to Emporia to work for Dynamic Discs, it has really been cool for me to see from the back end just how much goes into making this event happen. You know, you hear about having 100 volunteers at an event, but until you see the coordination that it requires to get them into place and to get them doing what they need to be doing, it's really impressive. So big shout out to Jackie Morris. It's her birthday today, by the way. So
I knew it was around this time of year.
That's right. If you see Jackie Morris out there, tell her happy birthday. She is just a great person.
Oh my gosh, look at this.
Wow, that's going to be a tough one for the card to call. From our perspective, that looks to be out of bounds, as your disc does have to be touching some portion of inbounds, and the out of bounds line itself is out of bounds. So that needs to be safe in any way in order to be counted fair.
Wow, that is a heartbreaker, as it looks like that will likely be called OB. And then you see the other disc right next to it, which almost is completely camouflage. Pro tip, don't throw green on green dyed, greenish colored green discs. I am not at their level of these gentlemen,
right.
And they usually probably find the center of the fairway. But unless you play in snow or sand all the time, that green on green disc, what a interesting color choice is my politest way to put that.
Right. If you're Rikki Wysocki, your choice of color on the disc shows your supreme confidence in your skill.
Okay, there you go.
That you'll never throw it in a place where you couldn't find it, I guess.
Well, I knew you would find the optimism in that.
Yeah, you know
as
me.
opposed to
Just
my
keeping
angle.
it positive.
And Lizotte, what a great putt. Maybe a little bit unenthused about it, as he had gone OB off the tee shot.
But he'll still save his par there. That's not bad. I'm kind of surprised to see fewer threes on this hole. I knew that we'd have fewer threes this year, as opposed to the old pin placement. But it seems like if our top players land a disc in the fairway, the approach isn't too difficult. I think maybe it's just lack of throwing from the fairway as much, so that these players don't know, I don't know, the distance gauge to get up to the basket quite like they would on a course that they'd practiced a little bit more, or a pin position that they'd practiced a little bit more.
And that might roll all the way back, and it's tough to tell from just where we are. It looks like it sat down, but that was very dangerous, and he still might be obstructed after that putt from one knee. And here is Wysocki. He's going to bring himself a full 1 meter in. Per the rules, anytime you go out of bounds, you're always welcome to bring yourself up to 1 meter back in bounds, and Ricky's going to do just that. But as you can see, he's got a little bit of a contemplation going on there as to whether or not he wants to straddle left or right. Looks like he's opting to straddle out to his right.
Whoa, maybe a pump fake and a loss of balance there for Rikki. Wow, and he catches the headband. That's going to be a bogey 5 for Rikki. That's going to drop him off of that group of 5 under pars who are tied, I believe, at 5th or 6th place.
Macbeth.
I think Paul Macbeth's going to take the only birdie on this hole. Is that right?
Well, if I click on our nifty UDisc information, we'll be able to see in a moment, as that's going to eventually catch up with the chat and the board. And McMahon struggles there, but gets it done, and we're going to move on. There's going to be a relatively short walk moving over to hole number 11 in just a few moments. And with that, what we can do is, there we go, Robert, we're gone just like that. Let's take a look at those scores. Still tied for first place, of course, Drew and Grady. Mccabe sits at that third place spot. Andrew Presnell still sitting in fourth. And then Macbeth, as you said, the lone birdie pushes himself to 6 under par. And it's great. We've seen a little bit of the action from Jordan Castro, who sits in a tie for 6th right now. So we'll do our best to continue to give you a little bit of his round, along with Nate Sexton and the rest of the guys on that card. So
that's right. It looks as if Nate Doss has fallen off the pace just a little bit. He actually took a bogey on hole 12. Hole 12 is a brand new pin this year. I think it plays relatively difficult just because of the amount of out of bounds that's near the basket and throughout the fairway. We do have a couple of people on pace to maybe catch up to Drew Gibson and Grady Shue. You know, Paul Macbeth is right there. Rikki Wysocki needs to maybe catch up just a bit, but he can catch fire on this course for sure. I would say once you get to holes 14 through 18, those are some of the more difficult holes on the course, and so catching birdies there won't be granted easily. You'll have to work for those birdies for sure.
All right, well, we're going to also take a quick look at the FPO scores once we are completed here with the tee shots here on the men's side for hole number 11. We'll see where the women are at on the other course. They're out at Cottonwood Falls at Swope Park. Not to be confused with the Swope Park in Kansas City, as
correct.
Many of you would. Is there a story about Swope that I should know about maybe later after these drives?
They the course lost its land to I believe to a no-kill shelter, and so they started having baskets pulled and tee boxes pulled and things like that. So a historic course that we lost in disc golf. I know that I'd only gotten to play there a couple times, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. Looks as if Macbeth didn't love his drive. It may have pushed a little bit right, but we didn't quite get to see where that finished. Simon's drive has leaked left, but is moving back to the right. He shouldn't have any trouble finding in bounds, but he won't be very close to the basket. Those trees and that tree line are probably around 45 or 50 feet.
Eagle McMahon sits now at 3 under par in a tie for 16th place through 10 holes. And at 364 feet, you can tell they're not throwing it nearly as hard as maybe some other people have to at 364 feet. But the downhill slope, along with so much power by this card, you can see that they're really laying off of it.
Yeah, you certainly don't have to throw it with 364 feet of power to reach this hole. It's just about having the angle be correct once you crest the hill. It's really easy to lose your disc right or left if you don't have the angle correct. We see Rikki just catching that last tree on the left side of the basket right there.
And as they're going to move down the fairway, we can check in with the action taking place over at Swope Park at Cottonwood Falls. Rebecca Cox, your current leader, as she's playing along with Paige Pierce on the same card. But Rebecca Cox, through 11 holes, finds herself in the lead at 3 under par. Paige Pierce, Lauren Butler, Colleen Thompson, all sitting at 2 under par in a tie for second. Can I go ahead and ask you right now, what do you see being the hot score as they're a little more than halfway through?
Let me think about this. So Cottonwood, hole 11 is back out in the open. I believe hole 12 is the last hole that kind of plays through some sort of woods. I don't know. It's a hole. If I remember correctly, hole 12 is kind of an interesting hole. Let's leave it at that. After that, there are several opportunities for birdie 2. Maybe 3 or 4 that the ladies, I think, have a pretty good shot at getting. But there is one hole in particular. It's a par 3 that plays 470 or so. OB on the right side and thick cedars on the left. I think we're going to see some big numbers on that hole today. It's different. I mean, every time I take 3, all right.
All right.
That's good. So as it stands right now, I think our winning score could probably be a 3 or 4 under par.
Okay.
If those ladies manage that portion of the course well.
And we're just seeing Rikki Wysocki for his birdie attempt from outside Circle 1. He looked to be about halfway between Circle 1 and Circle 2, right around 45 feet. Also, I'd like to thank and welcome Will Schustrick, who's out on our chat board following along, taking in the action. Will, I believe, a 2-time Glass Blown Open champion, as Simon Lizotte cashes one in.
Great putt by Simon there. It looked like he was at about 40 feet. Staring at OB, I don't know, maybe 25 feet behind the basket. Great putt by him. And absolutely, I'll echo your sentiment. Good to see you back, Will. I know that you've been struggling with that shoulder injury for a while, but I've always enjoyed watching Will play disc golf, one of the smoothest throwers and longest throwers in our sport. So welcome back. We're good to have you back, man.
And Will certainly knows what it takes to win here at the Glass Blown Open. So many different challenges, and always such a competitive field, as Eagle McMahon also converts on his birdie.
I don't know why, but for whatever reason, that last tree on the left always felt a lot farther from the basket to me. But we just saw the orange flag that left them right inside the circle's edge. And so if they're a little bit farther out to the left, that's when you get into that 40 or 45-foot range. Paul Macbeth from approximately 25 feet. And he's left it low. That's an uncharacteristic miss for Paul. I think he's usually pretty solid from that range.
And with a slight downhill slant to that putt, Wysocki, somewhat frustrated, scoops up his mini and clears it out of the basket. And Macbeth also a little bit of frustration. He's going to move on. We're a little more than halfway through. I don't know if there's been anything crazy or any surprises that we weren't anticipating at this point. Robert, again, Robert McCall, Terry Miller, the disc golf guy from the Dynamic Disc Distribution Center. Opening round, people just trying to find their way throughout this Emporia Country Club course.
Yeah, this course plays really difficult for some reason. I mean, I guess for some reason it's that there's a lot of out of bounds on the course, but but this year in particular, I mean, 10 down is a great score. You know, I think that's going to be really, really good. I think we'll probably see both of those 10 downs on the lead card going into tomorrow. Hot take, you're welcome. Wow. But yeah, it's interesting to see some of the top players in the world struggle out here. Maybe just being a little loose with their tee shots. Maybe wind is playing a little bit more factor than we can tell here from the booth. But I do expect some people to catch fire. Every hole out here is birdieable. You know, this isn't like a Jonesboro, which is a really, really long course, and there are some holes that you just don't even really think about birdie. You know, it's not like that. Every hole can be birdied, but you've just got to be tight with your game. You've got to be really pinpoint with your drives and absolute with your approaches.
All right. Well, I think we're going to be able to get back to some action. This is, again, from our second to last card of the day that went out. This is Chris Zagone. And converting on his putt.
Dead in the heart of the center.
No doubt about
it.
Chains.
Attaboy,
Some
Chris.
on the board would say something about roll tide. I'm not sure if that's appropriate or not. Maybe that's a thing in disc golf. I'm not sure how that works.
I've never heard of it.
Thank you guys for joining us here again during the opening round as we give you action a little bit from the first card and from this second card. Tomorrow we're excited to bring you the women are going to be moving over to another course. Is it Peter Pan tomorrow or is it Jones East for them tomorrow? Do you know?
I don't remember which one it is tomorrow. It's one of those.
They'll be at one of those two, and we'll be there following along, so we'll be able to cut into the women's footage as well.
And we do have perennially better cell signal out at Jones East and Peter Pan than we have in Cottonwood Falls. And we are having a little bit of cell signal issue out here at the country club today, but usually that's not a problem for us. So we're doing our best to work on that. We would love to have a smoother stream tomorrow. And thank you guys so much for sticking with us. If you are still around, we want to make sure that we provide you the best coverage that we can.
Wow, and we're excited. And a lot of people are talking about, well, this course seems so boring. It's so easy. You just
come
said a
and
moment
play it.
ago.
Yeah, please come. Okay, for the people who are saying that out on the board, I'm sorry. I'm gonna take one out of the Bobby Brown book. I'm gonna keep it real.
Keep it real.
If you are out on the board and you're saying that this course seems boring and you've never been out here, I guarantee you, when you play this course, it will play more difficult than you think. First time out, I bet you won't shoot under par. It is really difficult to keep it in bounds, to find your birdies, and it's just so easy to find the out of bounds, to get loose with a tee shot, and then you lose 2 strokes. So that's just, it happens out here. So if you haven't made it out, come and try your hand at Country Club. I would love for you to see it in person. This for me is like, this is what I hear about the Masters in Augusta, right? Is that on TV it looks like, oh man, it's just this distance and it's that shot. But I've heard from people who have gone out there that the elevation changes are so much more drastic than you can tell on TV. The challenge with the wind is a lot more difficult than you can tell. So if this looks boring to you, please come out and play it. I promise it'll be worth your while.
And while you're at it, if you want to challenge Robert McCall or the Country Club, put on a salmon shirt. Then we'll see how tough you are. Put on your shirt, come on out, and we'll see how things go down out there at the Emporia Country Club.
That's right. I thought you were going to say challenge me at the course. And
well, it's got to start with the right attire.
That's right, yeah. If you're going to show up, you got to make sure that you're matching, and then we'll be ready to go.
And speaking of things going down, tonight there's some more action. We talked earlier about the Emporia Country Club hosting the poker gathering. I believe the Bourbon Cowboy is going to be hosting a little wrap-up show, live podcast that's going to be coming in tonight, along with
Mechanical Bull.
Have they renamed that to the McCall Bull?
No.
They should.
No, yeah, they should, except for you'd probably have to like be good at that in order to have it renamed for you.
I think you have to be
one polar extreme. Yeah, I'm with you. I guess I don't know how good I am, so maybe you'll see me at the
I think we'll find out
Bourbon
tonight,
Cowboy.
won't we?
Yeah, maybe so. But also definitely not.
All right, we are back here with Double G on the tee of hole number 13.
This is a hole that Double G can really feast on. This plays 370 something feet. It has a deceptive uphill grade to it, and so these players are going to have to play a pretty nice hyzer to get all the way down there. So hole 12 is a brand new hole at Emporia Country Club. OB cart path to the left, OB green to the right, and OB fairway short and right. For most of these players, it's a pretty standard hyzer. It's a good distance for their just power hyzer up high into the green, but if they misread the wind, if they come down on a bad angle, they can find OB left. They can certainly find OB long. I think this hole is going to play relatively difficult throughout this week. It is, in fact, playing over par right now at 3.17 scoring average. See Eagle McMahon taking a big hyzer out over the fairway. He's gotten the perfect skip, and he's made the hole look pretty easy. I'll tell you, for a mortal thrower, the first time I stepped up to this hole, it played quite a bit farther than I thought it was going to. I had to put a lot more power into it to get up to the green and give myself a putt than I thought I was going to.
And that looks wide by Wysocki. Is going to have enough time to get back.
That's not in danger of OB. It's just there's one tree probably directly between him and the basket, and that's the mistake that you really don't want to make on the right side, is being pin high right. You can certainly be OB right. That's no fun. But for these guys who push their drive too straight and don't test the cart path just a bit, they can find that tree between themselves and the basket. Sneaky, yeah.
Sneaky.
Yeah,
all
sorry,
right.
guys.
Well, sneaking back on us. What was sneaking away from us was our entire stream. So we're glad to be back, and we're going to get back to the action. We see Jordan Castro on the second card. Looks like he's going to be clearing out, and then we're going to be able to actually come back with our lead card here in just a moment, or our featured card. Make that mistake.
Looks like Paul Macbeth has already pitched up from where he was in the fairway, probably ran his birdie putt to just long of the basket. Eagle McMahon is going to tap his birdie two in and get out of the way. That'll be Paul dropping in for 3. Here will be Rikki for his 3, and Simon will follow suit. So brand new hole 12. I like seeing the change. I think it's a good hole to change it up. We had to add a hole because we put old holes 6 and 7 together to create new hole 1, which is quite the par 5 to start off the course.
It certainly is. Was it a little bit of just the flow, or was it some other strategy, or was it scoring? What exactly helped that transition to move over to where you guys are starting on hole 1 as opposed to what is now the hole 8?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue that we were trying to solve with that change was the course flow. That we started up on hole 1, walked over to 2. There was a bit of a walk to 3, and then a couple of long walks to get you to where you needed to go. Right now, when we start hole 1 over by the parking lot and combining holes 6 and 7, we create a better flow for the course, but we also take hole 6 was kind of like a par 3.5 is really how it played. Really long par 3. People didn't birdie it hardly at all. Almost everybody got a 3 on it. So you take that and move it into now a par 5. Hole 7 was a fine par 3. It was not great, not bad, just kind of in the middle. And I think it creates for a really great opening hole. Where once you step up to that first tee, there's no technicality to the tee shot. It's just throw it hard, and welcome to Country Club. I like it.
Eagle McMahon with the honors here after the birdie on hole number 12 as we're 2/3 of the way through the course.
And this is actually a new tee pad here on hole 13. We used to tee from the sidewalk that's over to the right. Players would be throwing out over the out-of-bounds fairway the entirety of their flight and then try to get back across the cart path. We see Simon Lizotte execute his hyzer to perfection. I like this tee change personally because it's less of a extremely wide hyzer, and this is more of a kind of a straight shot that the players have to push out just a little bit more. See Rikki Wysocki flare straight in front of the basket. He's going to sit at about 40 feet or 45 left maybe. Last to tee is Paul Macbeth. He's hung his drive out over the cart path as well, skipping back to the left. Looks like he'll be right at about circle's edge. I want to give a quick shout out. Earlier today, we were talking about hole 1, the brand new par 5, 1,135 feet. And one of the bets, kind of side bets that we've had going here at Dynamic Discs this week is how many threes will we see on hole 1? How many eagle threes will we see? Well, today the answer was 1 eagle 3. So big shout out, Jake Hebenheimer out of Missouri.
Jingle Schmidt.
Hey, that was a really good one. It sounded like it would go in that. That's perfect. Carded the lone eagle 3 today by parking the basket.
Wow.
He was that means he was inside 8 to 10 feet on his second shot. 1,135 feet covered in 2 throws. The third throw about 5 to 8 feet. That's absolutely incredible. And earlier this week, I saw Jake warming up on that hole. And I hadn't really seen him around a whole lot. I'd heard his name, but I watched him throwing some tee shots. And if you've played hole 1 before, getting up to the top of the hill is, I bet it's 550 to the top of the hill. And he had several drives consecutively land in that spot. So I thought maybe we'd see him card that eagle 3 this week. So congrats to you, Jake. Hope the rest of your round went as well as that. Parking that hole is pretty good.
Wysocki here with a putt from outside circle 1. He's looking about 38 feet.
Bang, bang, as Rikki has been known to do. Little right to left crosswind didn't bother him at all and just puts it in the middle. That's well done by Rikki. Kind of get his momentum back. He loves to talk about momentum.
He sure does.
And he's had a couple of holes that for him aren't the greatest, not the best scores that he was looking to take, and so for him to get back on that birdie train will be really good for him here. And if that's the farthest drive from the basket, we've got a pretty good look at a star frame here. This is a good hole to card a birdie on, certainly. And Eagle puts his putt in the middle of the basket as well. Simon is absolutely parked. He's maybe 5 feet away. So this will be Macbeth from what looks like 20 feet. And I'm sorry to give you the Castro curse, Macbeth, but it looks like he's just missed his putt there. He'll be settling for a par 3. Uncharacteristic miss for Macbeth there. He's been putting pretty well this year, so interesting to see him miss that one, but we will have 3 birdie 2s. We'll be moving on.
Yeah, and speaking of moving on, what I think we can do is also maybe take a look over at the Fpo scores. And through 12 holes, Paige Pierce has now found herself back in a tie with Rebecca Cox. They are both sitting at 2 under par. Lauren Butler, Colleen Thompson, Lisa Fakis, Zoe Andyke, Emily Beach, all sitting within a few strokes of the lead. And it's crazy to see. You're talking about the top 4 or 5 or 6 positions, and it's just a 2-stroke difference right now. That has to say something about the course out there and the competitiveness of it.
Yeah, I think this is a really great course for any of our competitors this week, but I was excited when I found out our female competitors were going to play Cottonwood Falls this week. There's just a great mix of holes out there, some longer open holes, some technical wooded holes, lots of places to get in trouble, lots of places to score. I've played around out there with Eric Mccabe where he shot, I think it was a 46 or 7, something just blindingly good. And then I've played out there with people who have shot, well into the 60s, even the 70s. And so that course can absolutely do that to you if you aren't careful with your tee shots and find good landing spots. We see Chris off the tee here. Looked like he was playing either a big anhyzer or a roller here on hole 14, which is a great play, but he's caught one of the early trees. This will be Nate Doss, who looks to be lining up a hyzer on the right side. Hole 14 offers our competitors several different options off the tee. We do have some gaps created by the trees directly in front of them. So there's a big anhyzer or roller out to the left side, kind of a straight shot to turn over that's just inside right of that open left side. You can also throw a roller through there, and that's what I think are going to be our maximum distance drives, or rollers that end up going through that gap. With the wind being how it is, which is a slight tail with a bit of right to left wind, getting down, good stop by Double G as he trips over the tee box. Getting down onto the fairway, if the wind holds that roller up, I mean, you can cover 550, 600 feet of this hole just with that one roller. This plays 766 feet, and with this perfect wind, similar to the wind they have today, I put a roller down there, maybe 200 feet away. And if you've played with me, you know I don't have 566 feet of distance. It's just hitting the angle exactly right.
Looks like Double G had hit a tree there, and he's going to have a little bit more work to do, so we'll be able to come back to him and possibly watch him throw here his second shot. He doesn't normally Double G might be have the longest walk before he finally gets to throw again, and that's not the case here. Both him and Chris look like they got caught up with something early. Without being out on the course, it's hard to tell if that wind is advantageous for a roller today, so we may see players playing slightly more conservative. If it is, in fact, a bit of a right to left wind, it can be hard to control that roller angle. So I think it's not surprising to see more air shots from our competitors. Looks like Chris just allowed that shot to get a little too high on him, and he has found the OB on the left side. Now that we've arrived at Garrett's drive, he's got, I bet 6-something to continue to carry the basket at this point. This ought to be a huge drive from Double G. Double G giving it all of the power required here.
And he has put down a roller, and that tree that he's rolling right in front of is about 40 feet from the basket. So in case you were wondering, that shot went about 550 feet. I mean, that's good.
No big deal.
Yeah.
Double G, though.
Yeah, that's just a regular old day's work for Double G. But that is a huge roller. That's actually going to give him a look at a birdie 3 if he can maybe pull out the Sonic that he likes to throw so much and toss it in right there. He'll probably find himself about 60 or 70 feet from the basket.
All right, well, let's check in. We're going to head over and take a quick look here on the men's side. Nothing's changed in the top 4 as they're all in the clubhouse. And what we're seeing, though, is everyone that is challenging the hot score of the day look to be in the last 2 cards. So right. I would like to say that we really kind of plan that, but you see Wysocki, Macbeth, Castro, McMahon, Lizotte, all in our last 2 featured cards, and they're all right now vying for a top spot on that leaderboard.
Yeah, and you love to see these guys playing well. This is a course where the elite player will certainly have an advantage because they just navigate courses like this better. They have better control over their distance drivers, and I think that's what we're seeing from the top players right now. They're putting their drives in great spots, and that makes this course quite a bit easier. I mean, you could say that about any course, but for some reason this course in particular, if you're clean off the tee, you can really score out here, and if you're not, you can get bit extremely hard.
And Nate Doss finds himself inside the circle, playing up along that right-hand side. Well-executed shot by Doss. Someone had asked a moment ago, even on our board, saying, who's Grady Shue? Grady Shue is a young gun out of, I believe, North Carolina.
Charlotte area.
Charlotte area. Discmania-sponsored player. He's been out there. We've seen him. I've seen him at a number of events around the country, including the South Florida Open at the end of 2017. And a young guy. I see him also touring quite a bit with Austin Turner. And he's clearly got game as he's sitting right now in a tie for the lead here at the opening round of this national tour event. So you're going to be seeing more of Grady Shue probably this weekend, but I think for many years to come if he keeps up his solid play.
Absolutely. Grady has that the body type that we've come to associate with long throwers. You know, he kind of looks like Simon. He's pretty tall, he's got long arms, pretty slim, and he can absolutely mash a disc. So when he puts some rounds together, it's really, really fun to watch. I think he had a good finish at USDGC last year that kind of put him on the map, and I believe he won Rookie of the Year last year as well.
So I just need to get taller and thinner and practice.
Hey, same here, buddy. You're preaching to the choir on the height thing. Although we got Johnny V shrugging over here. He said maybe height isn't all you need.
Yeah.
Well, as we're following our competitors down 14's fairway, we had the opening ceremonies at the Glassblown Open last night. We did move, in fact, over from the Granada to the William L. White Auditorium to house over 1,600 competitors and even more supporters and fans of disc golf as we did those ceremonies last night. And we do have a couple of special announcements that were made last night that we're really excited to share with you. One of those isn't a brand new announcement, but we are going to be hosting the Junior Worlds here in Emporia coming up this summer. If you have a young person in your life, a child, a friend, anything like that who is interested in disc golf, think about making the trip to Emporia. It's going to be an incredible environment, having some of the best juniors in the world out here playing our courses and really growing the sport together with them. We're really excited to host Junior Worlds here in July.
And the Junior Worlds you're hosting in July, that is going to be one of 3 years in a row. Is that correct?
That's correct. At least for the minimum of 2018, 2019, and 2020, we'll have Junior Worlds hosted here in Emporia. I think I speak for all of us here at DD when I say if we have the option to have it moving forward, we'll continue running it. We love investing in younger players and seeing them develop. We think they're the future of our sport, and we've got some great juniors who are on our team, and we've seen a lot of other juniors really come up and start playing great as of late. So it's always fun to watch those players play. And
I'm going to go ahead and make a very needed clarification as I was running around trying to do some things last night. Were you guys lobbying for the 2020 Combined Worlds?
Yeah, I don't know.
What was going on there? Because I think it confused a few people as to what's going on out there.
Sure, I'll say this. We had been talking with the PDGA quite a bit about running a combined worlds every 5 years, which combines pro worlds, am worlds, junior worlds, age protected, everything like that. To my knowledge, I don't think we've won the bid for that. Okay, but it's something that we're extremely interested in, right?
Okay.
Because we are going to have junior worlds out here, we'd really like to just host the combined worlds, bring all the competitors into Emporia, and just have a great time hosting everyone here. We've also got a new event that we just announced last night, which was actually news to me, so that's cool. We're going to have a World Match Play Championships. Right now, we've been hosting the Amateur World Match Play Championships that are going to conclude in Emporia a couple of months from now. As we're getting through some of our local qualifiers, we'll move on to regional qualifiers, and then the national championship here in Emporia coming up soon. But we're also going to be hosting a World Match Play Championships. This isn't just for amateurs anymore. This is for the pros. Whoever wants to play can play this. And through our partnership with OGIO, which is only growing stronger after they were purchased by Callaway, this is something we're really excited about. They're committed to giving $25,000 to the purse for the winners, which is going to guarantee $15,000 for first place, $10,000 for second, $7,000 for third, and $3,000 for fourth place.
What?
So we don't have any further details that we can share right now on any dates or qualifications, but what I can tell you is this is an event that you want to be a part of. I will absolutely be playing this event, even if I don't win.
Even if you don't win.
Now that's a big if. I would say
Well,
I would say I'm definitely the favorite, but assuming that I don't win, I'm super excited to play this event. That's going to be great.
Well, we just watched our featured card tee off. We saw Paul Macbeth throw a forehand, which of course is important, but also worth noting that he's put a jacket on. And so that tells you a little bit about how the climate or the weather is changing out there, whether it's the wind that's picked up, or maybe it was something with comfort level, whatever the case might be. But to see someone put on a jacket here with just a few holes left to play as we push into about 5:20 p.m., and we're talking about temperatures in the high 60s, low 70s throughout the week, possibly high 70s on Saturday. Those are things the subtle differences and things you want to make sure that you take note of out there.
Absolutely. We do have one other thing that we're really excited about through our partnership with Callaway is Callaway's been hosting an event called the Links at Petco Park, which is a stadium event similar to what we've done at Nissan Stadium in Nashville and then AT&T Stadium in the DFW area that we're going to be hosting in Kansas City later on this year. So the Links at Petco Park is a 9-hole golf course, a traditional golf course, ball golf, whatever you'd like to call it, inside Petco Park. And this year, we're going to be able to feature disc golf for the first time. So amongst those 9 golf holes, we're going to feature 1 disc golf hole. And so we're really excited to see how that works out and to expose more people to disc golf. I think they said they had a couple thousand competitors last year, something like that.
Well, and one thing that people talk about quite frequently is grow the sport. And when I think about growing the sport, I think about the outside of disc golf collaborations, partnerships, and sponsorships. So something that you can talk about from a DD perspective, you think about OGIO, Callaway now, Zuka, who was not in disc golf just a number of years ago. Those are all positive things that I think we all need to think about and embrace as we're seeing these companies from outside disc golf get introduced to us. And this is Eagle McMahon's forehand. And just inside the circle?
Yeah, beautifully played from there. This is, I'd say this is a pretty difficult par 4 to get a 3 on unless you have that huge distance off the tee. And it's difficult to get that huge distance off the tee because of the trees that kind of shape your shot. So I really like, Eagle's play there. This green accepts forehands really well, especially trying to get around that last tree in the fairway. Looks like that's what we'll see from Rikki as well. He's thrown a great drive out to the left side of this fairway, and that opens up the forehand quite a bit better.
Rikki most comfortable with the forehand. We've heard him talk about that for a number of years. And he's going to be short there.
He just clipped the very late branches right there and has fallen almost straight down. That's going to leave him 45 or 50 feet, if I had to guess.
I wanted to make a clarification that if somebody were to come out here and play or visit in Emporia, say, next week, they would see the exact same course set up at the country club, or would it be a variation?
One hole is different, and that's the island hole. The island hole, which is hole 16, is not in the ground all the time. Every other hole out here is a permanent hole. And so this is set up and open to disc golfers most days of the week. The country club is actually closed on Mondays to maintain the greens and everything like that. But throughout the rest of the week, they have times where it's open to disc golfers, and you can come on out and play this exact same layout without the island hole. Now, you can throw to the island, and once you make it on the island, most of the time it's close enough that you're going to make your putt, I'd say. But yeah, you can check that out anytime.
Well, and make sure you come on out to the country club at some point. They've also completely remodeled their downstairs area that I was in with a great-looking kitchen and bar set up down there. So make sure you come out and support disc golf at the country club. Come play one of, about 12,000 holes you can find in Emporia?
Yeah, I think 12,000 might be a bit of an overestimation, but
okay,
but I think that's close. Yeah,
give or take 900.
Yeah, no, we are very fortunate to have a bunch of great courses here in Emporia. 2 out at Jones Park. Peter Pan Park is one of my personal favorites. It's just really fun to play. It's a really fun course. Country Club is there, and then we've got Hammond Park, which is one of my favorite 9-hole courses here in town. It is it's a shorter course, but it's just a really fun one to play. And then Cottonwood Falls outside of town, Olpey Lake. Maybe you've heard tales in hushed tones about how difficult Olpey can play in the wind. But yeah, tons of disc golf courses out here. This is absolutely a disc golf destination. Big putt by Rikki Wysocki, converting on his birdie 3 there after a second shot that I left something to be desired. He says that doesn't really matter and just jams the putt for birdie 3.
After Wysocki has made his long putt, this is Macbeth from on the other side of the tree. It doesn't look like a full-blown straddle from that angle, but he's definitely on that right side of the tree.
And a great line from Macbeth as he makes good even after he had kind of a difficult second shot, pinched up on a tree that forced him to throw hyzer around the big tree by the basket.
Eagle lining up a putt from just inside the circle's edge. As always, if you'd like to compliment anything that you're seeing besides just the actual golf footage, you can go out to udisclive.com and you can follow along all the stats and scores and information all out there as well and available. And Simon Lizotte taps in. We're through 14 holes here, Robert, during our opening round. We'll also go ahead and we'll check in with the Fpo scorecard in terms of the leaderboard. Simon Lizotte finding himself tied with Eagle McMahon at that 7 under par, along with Andrew Presnell. Simon and Eagle, of course, have 15 through 18 to play, and Paul Macbeth and Rikki Wysocki both sitting at 6 under par. George Smith, again, a Masters age player out here competing. He's sitting at 5 under par. Some people have probably asked, where might they find Johnny McRae this weekend, knowing he's so competitive? Open division, Masters division. Do you know where he's at? And do you know as to why he made a decision one way or another?
Well, it looks like Johnny's opted to play in the MPO field this week. Johnny did not have a great round to his standards. He ended up finishing 1 over par, shooting a 64 today. Looks like he had 5 birdies and then 4 bogeys and 1 double. I'm not sure of his reasoning between playing MPO or MP40. I don't know. Once I have the option, I think I don't know. I'd probably play with the 40 and over guys more, but yeah, like we said, Johnny is a competitor, so looks like he's chosen to play in that field. See Nate Doss in the middle of the fairway here on 15, just wide on his putt, and this will be Jordan Castro. If If you see the orange flag sticking out of the ground, those are going to be the circle 1's edge, and that's a 10-meter circle, so 32 feet 10 inches or so. Looks like he's about halfway between that and circle 2, so he'll be right at around 45 feet.
Trivia question to store in the database for some time later. Jordan Castro was one of 4 people that went into a final 9 tied for the lead at the Amateur World Championships. That was 2014.
Oh, I didn't know that.
4 people, all 4 of them tied as they moved into the final 9. Pretty incredible battle. Jordan
that's awesome.
Not coming out on top of that one, but he's gone on to have a great professional career in the last few years.
Absolutely. He just on the top of the basket for that one. And Garrett Gerthy plays ring around the rosy with the basket, puts it on the right side, no chains, and slides it around. That hole 15 is the type of hole on which Garrett would feast. It's 420-something-ish feet, straightforward, or you can throw a big hyzer. I have to assume he threw a big hyzer and put himself inside the circle. Power throwers definitely have an advantage on this hole.
In filming and watching Le Castro last weekend at the Rumble, noticed that Jordan, he's methodical. He makes sure to take every bit of his time that is allotted, sometimes maybe a little extra, but he is very methodical in his play. He doesn't take any shots for granted. He wants to really make sure that he's set, whether it's a putt or an approach or a drive, whatever the case might be. He wants to make sure that he's got everything in position and ready to go to execute at the highest level.
Absolutely. Here's Chris. Looks like he'll be tapping in for what looks like his par 3.
And we know that our featured card is excited and they're ready to go. There's been a little bit of a catch-up or hurry up and wait. You play, you catch up to that card in front of you, you watch them putt out. How does that affect someone's mental state of mind out on the course?
It can honestly be really difficult. If you haven't encountered a lot of backups before, running into a backup can be really frustrating, especially if you're on a little birdie streak or you're playing particularly well. It's very frustrating to have to wait, but these guys are professionals. They do it all the time, so it's just one more distraction that they have to overcome. We see here on 15, Eagle McMahon is lining up a big hyzer, 426 feet. Just needs to push it out around that farthest right tree. And he about rang that basket up on the skip. That is a perfectly played drive by Eagle, coming up about 15 to 18 feet long. From our perspective, it looked like he almost made that. That's an incredible shot. Simon takes a similar line. As long as it's off the right side of the tree, he'll be in a great position. Yeah, and I mean, just maybe a bit short for Simon. He might have hung it up a little bit higher than he wants to, but he is inside the circle, probably looking at about 25 to 30 feet. Rikki Wysocki has taken an enforcer out wide, swinging back into the left. And that's picture perfect. He hasn't quite aced it like Eagle, so I don't know which one you'd say is more impressive, but both have a very probable chance at a birdie 2. Last tee will be Paul Macbeth, likely lining up a hyzer with a destroyer here. Beautiful flight from Macbeth. Spikes just in front of Simon's disc and takes a little bit of a trickle forward, so he'll be sitting at 20 feet or so for his birdie 2. We do have a couple of competitors who are on pace to maybe break onto this to our lead card for tomorrow. Both Simon and Eagle are sitting at 7 under par with likely chances at birdie here on 15, but they also have the difficult island hole number 16 that we're seeing Garrett Gerthy throw right now, as well as a new pin placement on hole 17 and a difficult par 4 on hole 18. Beautiful shot by Garrett Gerthy. That looks like a rock. Great choice for this island. You just want something to land softly and stick the island there. But we do have a couple of competitors who have got a shot to be on the lead card, so depending on what their next few holes look like, we might see entirely new people on our lead card tomorrow. Maybe none of our competitors from the featured card today. We'll see.
Well, and that's certainly one of the questions: is how do these feature cards get set? Is it voted upon? Is it sponsorship related? At any given event, there are a lot of different ways that feature cards can be assembled or put together. In this case, we've got 4 of the, we'll say, the best and most entertaining competitors that are in the sport of disc golf, trying to highlight and showcase, get as many eyes and viewership on it as possible. And Castro's pulled that one to the right.
He gets a green flag?
I think that was...
Maybe there is a stretch of island that's just underneath the bridge right there. Maybe he's sitting up on it. I'm not sure.
That was... that might have been a little bit of a bogey on the spotter's behalf. Well, volunteer spotter out there doing the work, but unless they just saw something we didn't. Look at this shot coming in by Doss.
Nate's line is perfect. Oh, yeah, and he's bounced it right up there. Beautiful shot. On our other camera, we see Eagle tap in for his birdie 2. Macbeth soon to follow suit.
And from the looks of it, I think we're going to see a layup here. Playing out and around to the right side. There's a area where players have the choice to lay up and then throw onto the island during their second shot. But you've got to be fully committed to this.
Absolutely, and it's not even a guaranteed. It's not even a guaranteed 3 from over there. If you push your layup shot just a bit too long, you can be stymied by the trees that are deep and on the right side, forcing you to throw more of a straight shot into the green or kind of just, I don't know, kind of an awkward distance. It's certainly not a guaranteed 3 at all. I love the island hole. I also hate the island hole. It's just a difficult hole. I mean, you really have to commit to it and execute. That's what makes it great.
When we were out there kind of doing a little bit of a course preview a few days ago, one thing that you kept saying about the island hole is it comes in at, about 340 feet, 340
I think it's more like 360 or something
360.
like that, yeah.
It possibly feels like it plays even longer than that. I mean, you have at least a 330-foot water carry just to get to the island. And then you have to have the right angle and the placement. And this is what we were looking at or talking about earlier. And sure enough, hence the eyes we didn't have at the time, that looks to be inbound. So spotter making the right call. I completely rescind my second guessing of him. Thank you to the spotter.
I guess you might call that an AM move.
It was an AM move all day long.
Oh man,
that's
okay.
That's how I roll sometimes.
That's okay. Sometimes everybody makes an AM move.
Those who can't throw come in and broadcast.
That's right,
or something
that's
like
right.
that. I'm sure plenty of you are thinking that. So here, moving over to, does that go right to the drop zone? Any OB found on this tee shot?
On the tee shot, that's correct. All OB tee shots go to the drop zone. This is basically a jump putt or just a little touchy putter approach shot. Once you go in the water, you're almost always getting a 4. It's really hard to run the basket from there.
And
Jordan coming
on his face.
Yeah, he's expecting he's inspecting his good fortune here, trying to figure out how that happened. He did get a couple of water skips there, but that's one thing I do like about the island hole is because of the angle on which our discs are flying in, a lot of times you will get a couple of skips on the water before you get to the island. And so if you have just barely not enough distance, sometimes you'll get lucky and get to stay on the island.
And so again, Jordan going to make full use of that 1 meter that I spoke of earlier, that anytime you find yourself out of bounds or near the OB line, you can take up to a 1 full meter relief, bringing yourself, and in this case it may bring you even closer to the basket. And Jordan will be doing just that as he's lining up.
And one thing that Jordan's doing right here, if you didn't know about this, you actually get a meter in all directions from the out of bounds. So if Jordan's disc is kind of pinched up in a corner with OB on 2 sides, then you are allowed a meter from both of those sides, not just one of them.
It sounds like you should be packing along a protractor or something. I don't know what
Right.
your angles are, what you're talking about here.
Calculate the angles, take the perfect hypotenuse from, you know. No, just take a meter from both and
A
you'll be good.
squared plus B squared?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Mm-hmm.
So Jordan, with some good fortune, finds himself on the island and looking at a possible birdie here. Looks like he's opting for a straddle of sorts. You got to wonder, is he going straddle because if he were to go with more of a traditional forward putt, maybe his plant foot, his left foot, might be a little bit mushy? Would that be something I could just make up and throw at you?
No, that sounds exactly right. I'll often, when I'm close to the water, just low for Castro there. When I'm close to the water like that, I'll often take a straddle just so that I don't have to worry about the traction on my back foot. So yeah, that's the same thing that I would have done if I was in his position.
Assuming you weren't parked, of course. Already.
Well, most of the time I'm directly on it, but on the extreme off chance.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
And this is Double G. A great drive. Is there almost a little more pressure when you put yourself on that island?
Yes.
To then make sure you capitalize, because you don't want to be that guy.
You don't want to be that guy who gets a 3 on this hole. Threes are honestly pretty rare. Once you get on the island, it's almost a guaranteed 2 unless you find the very corner or something like that. It's very frustrating 3 to take if you did all the work of making the island, for sure.
And Castro is going to take one of those probably somewhat rare 3s that you speak of.
But after his drive was fortunate to land in bounds, that's all right. No big deal. No harm, no foul.
And then they are moving away from the island. They just have 2 holes to play, 17 and 18. As we move into hole 17 eventually, we'll also talk about some of the changes that we saw there as that hole got a little bit of a redesign. But really just 3 holes left here for our featured card. And excited to bring the action to you. We'll also check in with the women here after the men have teed here on hole number 16. This is Eagle McMahon.
He's going to be lining up a forehand. The left side of the green is more open for the entirety of the flight, and so forehand is a good play into this green, but it's a relatively long forehand coming in at 365 feet, probably 335 or 340 feet of water carry to reach the basket. Eagle's got the power for it, and he's played a great shot. He's going to be sitting 15 to 20 feet from the basket. That's trusting his game plan. I guarantee you he practiced the backhand as well. But it looks like they've got a right to left wind, and he didn't want to put something up high in the wind. So instead, he just played that forehand hyzer and let the wind work for him instead of against him.
We see Eagle at 8 under par. Wysocki currently at 7 under par.
And that's a very overstable disc. That bounces up, hits the signs, and stays in bounds. I like the just blasted into the backboard play.
Yes.
Not everybody has that play, but I like it.
Just throwing up bricks there, playing it right off the glass.
Yeah, why not?
Or the corrugated plastic in this case. But
there's Paul Macbeth. This looks like a rock if I had to guess. And he's put it out right of the basket, letting it track left. As long as it's got the distance, it's a beautiful line. And it's got perfect distance. That is expertly played by one of our sport's top players. Again, if you haven't been out to Emporia Country Club, I'm sure that you've thrown plenty of 365-foot shots, and you think, oh, this is an easy island. Oh wow! And Simon just spikes it with a big hyzer. That's incredible. Most of the time when players take a hyzer, it is to play a layup. Yeah, Simon just takes the old hyzer, go for it. But if you're thinking, if you haven't been here before, oh yeah, I've thrown 365-foot holes all the time. Just wait. I promise you, your knees will be knocking. You'll be a little concerned about the future of your disc if you step up to this hole. It's not a gimme hole,
unless of course you have the power 425-foot.
That's right.
Hyzer shot to pinpoint right on dropping it on a dime there.
Yeah, that's pretty good
by Simon Lizotte. What a shot by Simon!
That's one of those routes nobody takes, right?
Correct.
That's like hole 9 at Jones East last year when Simon went out over the road and got that eagle. Incredible shot. One of those shots that I didn't like. I've never even dreamed of looking at that line. It wasn't even a possibility. And so it's fun to see Simon and those guys play because they're so creative and they can do so many different things with a disc that most people just not only can't, but can't even really fathom.
Or even think about. Well, we're seeing Rebecca Cox again pulls out into the lead over Paige Pierce early here in the tournament. They're through 15 holes. Rebecca Cox sits at 3 under par. Paige Pierce sits at 1 under par along with Lauren Butler. So not exactly maybe what you would have expected, you know, by the end of round one. And names we're not seeing in the top 10 include Valerie Jenkins, and we're also not seeing up there Elaine King, who's maybe a little bit of a surprise, or a Madison Walker. There's a few different names that we're seeing in the top 10 of the on the women's side right now. So very interesting play over there at Cottonwood Falls.
That's right. Right now we've got Elaine King. She finished her round at 3 over par. Just had a couple of bogeys to finish the round. Actually, 4 bogey strokes in her last 5 holes. And so kind of a tough finish for Elaine there. She finished at 3 over par. That's tied with Madison Walker right now, who just took a double bogey on the par 4 16th. So she's sitting at 3 over par as well. That's where Kona is sitting currently. Then we've tied for 9th, got Jessica Weiss, Colleen Thompson, and Sarah Hokum. So yeah, a couple of names not in the top few players that we're used to seeing.
And including, as someone had pointed on the board, Katrina Allen struggling. And I'm just seeing her score for the first time myself as you've pulled that up.
Mm-hmm. She's having
I have to
really tough
scroll
day.
over to you to see that she's sitting in a tie for 24th. She started out with 3 birdies in her first 5 holes, and then just ran into, I think, the section of the course that you talked about. I see a pair of 6s on the board.
That's exactly right. Yeah, hole 6 is the first hole in the woods. It's a straight water carry. It's not that long of a hole, 300 feet, but it's fairly tight. It's easy to find out of bounds there. Yeah, so big numbers can definitely be had.
Wow. So Katrina Allen, someone you would definitely not anticipate to have those types of struggles out here during the opening round. And another Allen, in Jennifer Allen, also looks like she kind of struggled through the last 1/3 of the course and finds herself in a tie for 22nd. So we're talking about the Glassblown Open with this unbelievable attendance, over 1,600 people, the largest event in PDGA history, and we're also seeing one of the largest women's fields ever at a tournament. And the fact that there were originally 40 women signed up, it looks like we ultimately had 37 that probably teed off this morning. Just incredible. So whoever comes out on top of this women's field certainly has gone out and earned it.
Absolutely, and they've got, like we talked about earlier, 3 different courses to play. So I like that that we'll see some different skill sets that'll be advantageous on each one of the courses.
Well, we're speaking of other scores that maybe have come in. One of the friendly faces that you see running around the country doing so much work on the Disc Golf Pro Tour is none other than Steve Dodge. Or maybe you see his little hair running around, his tuft of hair. Steve Dodge out there competing, says, "I'm only going after the best of the best this weekend." Well, Steve Dodge ultimately finished, I believe, with a 10 over par. You might see a single highlight shot that I captured of him.
That's like the highlights they'll put together for Dana from the Pro Tour finale.
Dana.
I laughed.
Sorry, Dana.
I saw him in person after that, and when I was watching y'all's show and you did that, I laughed out loud. And he's such a great sport. That was awesome. I loved it.
Certainly. So Steve Dodge in the clubhouse, he came in with the +10. And it's just great to see him out there playing. He said this is his first ever national tour event ever. He's run them. He's never had a chance to play in one. So we're back. We're with Jordan Castro and the second to last card as they're moving down hole number 17. 17 used to have anywhere from a 2 to a 6 hour backup.
That's correct. You're right.
And I think you guys, again, working with the flow, trying to eliminate that this year. What was the plan?
Yeah, that's the big change on this course that I think makes the most substantial difference. So this hole used to play basically like the shape of a 7. Really long straight shot and then dogleg 90 degree to the left that played with OB on the left and right sides. Now, and that was a par 5, and we would see some 3s throughout the weekend by the power throwers who could take big hyzers out and around the trees on the top. Now we've moved the pin straight and over to the right, and I think it's made it a more fair hole to its relative par. because you could throw a pretty bad drive on that hole, not a pretty bad drive, but something that ended in the fairway, and still throw a hyzer around the corner and still get your birdie 4. I mean, it was entirely doable. I think getting a birdie 3 on hole 17 is going to require 2 really good shots today, instead of just one okay one and one good one. I mean, I love the change on hole 17. Yeah, I mean, it's one of my favorite changes that we've made by far. Hole 17 plays at 530 feet, but it actually plays over par as well at 4.13 scoring average for the weekend. So yeah, I love the change.
And thanks to our chat, we're also seeing that, and sometimes I get in trouble for just reading things off the board without any fact checking, but why am I going to start fact checking now? Apparently, 2 guys so far who birdied 17 and 18. Curious to see if there's one of these guys that are playing that can keep up with them. So not too many birdies being relinquished here in these last few holes.
For me, between hole 5 and 18, those are the 2 most difficult holes to birdie.
Okay.
Right? So,
Yep.
Okay. It's interesting because hole 5, I could get a 3 easier on hole 5 than I could on 18. However, there's more out of bounds on 5 that can bring bigger numbers into play.
Sure.
Hole 18, I'll almost always get a 4, but I will almost never get a 3 because it's a pretty big water carry, and then your drive has to finish up a little bit of a hill, and then it's just a really steep uphill shot, either a huge turnover or a big hyzer. These power players have the ability to get there for sure, but it's just not. It's 2 big shots. It's not a pitch hyzer. It's not a straight easy shot. They're power shots for sure.
Well, with plenty of power, we have Eagle McMahon sitting at 9 under, currently in a tie for 3rd.
Yeah, he looks like he wants his position on that lead card secured for tomorrow. So he's going to go up the middle with something that slightly turns to the right. As long as that stays safe on the right side of the fairway, he's covered a ton of ground. And it has just leaked enough right to find out of bounds. He's covered so much that I'd be pretty confident that he can take a par here. He can still convert on a 4. But had that stayed in bounds, he would have a wide open, nice look at a 3.
Wysocki sits at 8 under par in a tie for 5th. We'll see if he can make that final push in these last 2 holes.
Out of the gate, this looks too stable. He needs that to find some favorable kick, and oh wow, maybe it just got down in time, but he's found a green flag, and he will be in bounds. That is either very fortunate, or maybe that's exactly where he wanted to land. I don't know. He's really good.
Also in a tie for 5th at 8 under par is Paul Macbeth. Macbeth throwing one of his many destroyers here.
Yeah, and this is trouble. That's headed left, and there is plenty of OB on the left side. He is going to find a red flag, and he's actually going to be pretty far back the fairway, so he's going to have quite a long shot for his second into the green. It'll be a long anhyzer or a big monster forehand up to the green from there.
And we know Simon does absolutely nothing of standard practice, so it looks like he's going to go take a different route from everyone else.
That's right. Here's the big hyzer. When there is a right to left wind, this is the play for a lot of our field. And for Simon, I guess it doesn't really matter what the wind is because he just throws it really far. So he's beaten all of the trees right there. He's in basically position A. That's going to give him not an easy look, but an easier look than any of our other competitors for his look at a birdie 3.
And as we've caught up on the green, we saw Castro and the rest of the group just tapping out some very short putts there. And we're going to check in. We can take another look at the scores.
Yeah.
We see our message board is blowing up. Much for tuning in. We've had such a great afternoon out here thus far. We're looking forward to bringing you this last 1.5 holes. Tomorrow we'll be back at it, bringing you the live action, of course, again from the Country Club. And then we'll be there again on Saturday for Championship Saturday. The women, however, playing Jones East and Peter Pan over the next 2 days. And clearly, Rebecca Cox is in it to win it, as she started out very hot here during this opening round, sitting at 3 under par through 15 holes as she's playing alongside of Paige Pierce. And Lisa Fakis sits at 1 under as well. Lauren Butler sits at 1 under from Team Legacy. And Andrea Eads sitting in a tie for 5th, along with Nicole Bradley and Emily Beach.
Yeah, it's great to see Andrea play well. I've known her for a while. She's been on Team DD for several years, and has been doing some higher education, furthering her career. Hasn't been able to play a whole lot as of late, but she absolutely can still play, and so really cool to see her up there. And then also really cool to see Rebecca Cox. She's been playing well all year, just having some steady finishes and hanging in there all the time, and so really great to see her playing well this year. So we switch over to the men's scores. We'll look at our leaderboard real quick. We've still got Drew Gibson and Grady Shue sitting at 10 under par. Eagle McMahon looks to be maybe the only one who might touch that mark today. Simon could do it as well. I guess if our other 3 competitors birdied out, they might be in that position. But a couple of great 10 under pars by Drew Gibson and by Grady Shue. Here's Simon Lizotte preparing for a forehand approach after his huge hyzer drive. And the last tree on the left is about 35 feet from the basket, so if he hits that, he'll be just inside the circle, and looks like that's what he's done. Now I'm interested to see Ricky's lie here, because it looked too far left out of his hand, but he did get the green flag, so we'll see if he's found a good spot here for a forehand approach, or even maybe a hyzer over the green.
Eagle McMahon looks to be waving down. I'm guessing he just wants to get a clarification from the rest of his card. Wants to get a consensus as to if it's okay where he's about to mark it. It looks like a spotter has, in fact, marked his OB lie. And it's always great to get a clarification with your group. Make sure everyone agrees with the spot that either the spotter gave you or the spot that you think in which you went out.
Right.
So that's all he was doing, is making sure that everyone else knew.
And ultimately, in case you're new to the tournament scene, ultimately it's a card decision, right?
Yes.
There's a spotter there. They are a volunteer, even if they are there under orders from the tournament. Even if they're hired for the tournament, their spot is not the group rule. The group rule is what supersedes everything else. So it's great to take their advice, and it's great for them to be there and help out. But if your group vehemently disagrees with what they've said, ultimately it's a group decision. And we see Eagle McMahon just throw a nice putter hyzer over that OB green. He's going to be about 10 feet from the basket to save his par 4 here. And here's Rikki Wysocki. Looks like he's landed right up against that OB line, so he'll be throwing a forehand into the green. He's chosen to throw that greenish, blackish disc that only skilled throwers can throw because they're so easy to lose, and he puts it about 20 or 25 deep of the basket. All right.
And welcome back, everyone. We were with you guys. We had lost some of the setting for just a few moments, everybody getting things under control. It's been a long afternoon out here, and we're excited to wrap things up today. We're excited to head over to the Bourbon Cowboy tonight.
That's right.
Or,
Mechanical Bull Time.
Mechanical Bull Time.
Macaulay Bull Time.
Exactly. And then also tomorrow, back with the live action. Tomorrow night, I believe we're going over to the fairgrounds for a Swedish bonfire.
That's right.
That is an annual tradition over there in Sweden. And, of course, with the connection to Latitude 64 and your partnerships, bring some of that tradition over to the U.S. here into Emporia.
Here we have Simon Lizotte putting for his birdie 3 from right around circle's edge, a little inside. And right in the center. Great putt by Simon, and it's good to see him with a confident putting stroke. He's had some putting woes throughout the round today, missing some uncharacteristic strokes. It's good to see him making putts that he feels that he should make. And Paul Macbeth from a similar distance here.
And Lizotte also putting a coat on as...
Oh, just half and half. that's one of those that 1 inch higher, and that's in the basket. Those hurt the most, just because you did everything but just maybe follow through that extra bit. No change necessary.
No, none required by Rikki Wysocki of Latitude 64. And Eagle McMahon will tap in, save the par, as you mentioned. You thought he might, and he's done just that. So, wow, just one hole left to play. We'll talk about what we're seeing on the men's side, but I am very interested to see what's going on over on the women's side. Rebecca Cox kind of breaking things out right now. We'll see if she's going to be able to hold on to things. Let's take a quick look. She still seems to be at in the lead. She's got a 2-stroke advantage over Paige and Lauren, sitting at that 3 under. Lauren is in the clubhouse. Lisa Fakis sits at even par. She's got just hole 18 to play. So I'm excited to see how that's going to shake out with this very large and deep women's field that we have here. 37 women competing this weekend for the Glassblown Open Trophy.
Yeah, and it's great to see such a large women's field out here, for sure. The ladies are actually on the hole that we referenced earlier, hole 16, which has all the cedars on the left side and then OB fence on the right. So they have to have a kind of a pinpoint hyzer to get themselves into a good spot. Finding the fairway is imperative to scoring well on that hole. So I assume we had a backup on that hole. That's why we haven't seen a lot of change.
Correct. And earlier, Will Schusterick had said how much he had liked the course, that he had gone out there and done some practicing in the 2016, before the rounds in 2016. Does that sound right? Was that course in?
I don't know if that was in by then.
Maybe you were practicing in a field?
I don't remember.
Who knows?
I wasn't around at that time.
Will Schusterick out on the board. Great to have him and so many others. Thank you guys. Everyone keeping it, for the most part, civil and cordial out on our chat board. Thank you guys for supporting the broadcast, for tuning in. Thank you to any and all of our super chatters from today. Each and every one of you, very much appreciated, as we're back with some action as the card moves up hole number 18 after they've thrown their tee shots and moving up this fairway. Nate Doss out in front as he's walking down the fairway. Nate and Val, again, a collaboration brew this week, along with Radius. Great to see. I think it was the Slight Headwind 2, perhaps.
That's
I think
right.
it was the second release of it.
I believe it's a sour beer this year. Now, I'll say this. I don't drink beer. So
are you sure? I think
the
you're
wrong
drunk
person.
right now.
Yeah, sorry. You're correct. This water bottle is actually full of random alcohol. I know the names of all of them, so it's perfect.
Yes.
But I will say
tomorrow
this.
we might come back hammered, you and I.
That's
Let's
right.
do it.
I will say this of Nate and Valerie, who have been working on Bevel Brewing Company. Great people. Love getting to work with them and partner with them for the GBO, and wish them nothing but the best moving forward. They're just a fantastic couple of people, both individually and then now together running that company. They're great.
And lots of great developments happening on the Bevel Brew side of things. But back to the action. We've got Nate Doss after throwing his second shot.
Yeah, that's a massive hyzer that he just threw. And getting to the green from there, I'd say, is pretty difficult for the not top pro and still somewhat difficult for the top pro. This green does slope from left to right, so if you land a disc just at the wrong angle, it can roll away down to the OB, not where you want to be. It's like Jordan Castro's drive has come to land safe in front of the cart path, but because it's so far over to the left, he's got a really long second up to the green. It's hard to tell if Castro's lining up a shot to go for this green or if he's just going to play up the fairway safe and play for a 4. For most of our not top pros, that's a great play, is just to play up the fairway, pitch over the basket. That's exactly what Jordan's done. Pitch up to the basket, take your 4, and get out of here. Once you get aggressive on this hole, if you try to turn something over the trees, that's when you can bring the OB right into play, bring bigger numbers into play as well.
And we're moving up this fairway. At a certain point, our feature card will be able to actually tee off, because this hole, of course, being the long par 4 that it is, they'll be able to tee off. So we'll actually have the last two groups on the hole as we complete the day. And we're pushing just about 3 hours. And I'm going to go ahead and admit I'm quite surprised by that. The flow had gone a little bit smoother than I even thought it would. Of course, that has everything to do with how you guys have adjusted the course since last year. But a 3-hour round with this many competitors coming through today is a little bit of a blessing that we may underestimate later in the week.
Yeah, absolutely. I love getting to move quickly through rounds, even if there's a bit of a wait on most tee boxes. I like that we haven't had just a huge backup here and there, maybe just a minute or two on each of our tee boxes. And I think that you can attribute that to the renumbering changes that we've made. Moving some different pins to places that make those walks not quite as long. There's not a switchback or anything like that. So kudos to Eric Mccabe for the changes that he's made. Obviously, he made them to his benefit as he shot well today.
Yeah, duh.
And I'm not sure if that's above board or not. You know, maybe you can consider that cheating, changing the course and then shoot it. But, whatever. Obviously joking. I'm super excited for Eric to shoot a great round today and thankful for the changes that he's made. I truly believe it's made it a better course. See Chris here. It looks like he's lining up his what's likely his third shot, unless he just super smashed a drive. So he's got a big hyzer headed toward the basket, and he is going to find OB left. It's a really tough spot to be. The slope of the green up by the basket is very, very drastic, a sharp left to right. And so if you land up high of the basket, that putt feels so scary running downhill toward the OB.
Rikki Wysocki here on the tee for our 18th and final hole of the day.
Looks like he's thrown something pretty stable, and he's going to be finishing right in the middle of the fairway.
Almost taking out one of our cameramen.
Little bit longer drive than maybe they had anticipated. That's going to open up probably a pretty good hyzer angle for him, or an anhyzer if he chooses to go that way. And this is what we've been waiting to see all day. Simon
Ace
Lizotte.
by Simon Lizotte.
Oh yeah, that'd be pretty impressive. But this is a hole for the most part. Simon can just open up and let loose. He's put a great angle on this disc. It looks like he's going to fly Ricky's by just a little bit. Those are both great places to land. He's outdriven Rikki by maybe 20 feet, so good on Rikki for for keeping up. Here's Eagle McMahon to follow suit. They are in great spots to be able to attack the screen. Eagle's angle looks a little bit more aggressive out of his hand, a little bit more ride to the right, and it's gotten up on top of that hill. He actually is in maybe even a more advantageous position than Rikki and Simon, because the basket is more to the right side of the fairway. And the last to tee is going to be Paul Macbeth, who threw what for me is probably the longest drive I've seen on this hole back in the 2016 Worlds. He's put this one a little bit lower, but he's still found himself on the top of the hill. Beautiful tee shots. You couldn't really walk up and place him in a much better place.
This is Jordan Castro. And this is a very, very touchy putt.
Extremely.
If you go too hard at that and that catches edge, that can roll all the way down behind the basket on the relatively steep hillside. So you want to be very careful as you're approaching the basket from that side. Getting it to come down, land flat, and stay where you're looking to put it. It's just that's a touchy and a very challenging putt.
Yeah, absolutely. I almost throw something with no glide over stable just to make sure that it gets down to the ground quickly. It's so easy to roll away or fly this basket if you get even a little bit aggressive with your shot.
And Chris is going to bring himself in the 1 meter.
Yeah, just a little bit of an unfortunate break. From the way that the flags are blowing, it looks like he probably just let his hyzer go a bit high and got carried by the wind. OB left there. Tough break for him. That's no fun being up there. And honestly, that's not really a putt you can run. I really like that play by Chris to just put it under the basket, take your medicine. He's not going to be really happy with the number that he got here, but it's better than flying the basket and being OB, putting 40 feet back uphill.
Nate Doss for a long look at a birdie.
And that's a touchy angle right there. I love the aggressive run. In general, you want to try and match the angle of your putter to the surface that it's landing on. But when you're that close for birdie 3, Nate Doss is playing the numbers game. He doesn't think that he's going to hit on enough angle to roll down the hill. So great bid. He's going to drop in for a par 4, and that's a great score on this hole.
Doss currently sitting at 6 under par. That is likely where he'll remain as he taps out. And he's going to be looking at a top 10 finish for the day. And what a great putt there by Double G, Garrett Gurthie. Chris Zagone sitting at +1 here through hole 17. He's actually tied with Johnny McRae. And I think if you would have asked either of them at the beginning of the day if they thought they would have been tied.
Yep. I don't think they'd have said yes. So tough day for Johnny McRae. Yeah, I think a pretty solid showing for Chris there. I know there's some strokes he wanted back, but Chris is a good player. Very, very smooth and technically sound form, so he'll bounce back.
Also, some other notables as I'm looking down udisclive.com. Someone that jumps out at me, Nate Perkins. Looks like he may have struggled a little bit today. Shot a +1. Nico LaCastro shooting a +2 on the day with just 3 birdies. Double G, who we saw tap out a few moments ago, is going to end his day with a birdie, but still in a tie for 79th place at +2. And I'm not going to say he has completely busted my Skip Ace fantasy league.
Sorry,
but I think that a lot of people pulling for Double G as he was a very solid pickup in fantasy disc golf. So Double G is going to have a little bit of work to do there as he comes in ultimately with the +2 on the round. And Eagle McMahon's going to wait for everyone else to clean off of hole number 18, and then Rikki Wysocki also lining up and getting ready from another vantage point we see. And Ricky's going to move his cart bag combo out of the way. And we'll be able to cut over to the men's leaderboard here after they've all thrown their approach shots.
Rikki has a great Stahlheiser into the screen. It looks like he's landed it nearly perfectly. It's gotten a little ground action. It's hard to tell if that sat down or not. He looks like he's happy with it, so I assume that it did sit down.
We're next up. Simon Lizotte confirming. Yep, he will be in fact ready to throw next.
Simon takes, instead of the stall route that Rikki takes, a bit more of a spike hyzer. He's landed it on a sharp angle and it's settled within 15 feet. Great shot by Simon, and that's really set up by having a huge drive. That is just a mash. Eagle McMahon has a little bit more of an open hyzer, less of a tree to contend with off the top. And he's caught a bad angle. That's rolling away, but looks like it's going to settle safe, not quite reach the out of bounds area. That's an unfortunate roll away, not really a deserved outcome.
No, he really threw it to almost exactly where you wanted it to land and stay. And sometimes that's going to get up on you, and sometimes it's not. We've seen that there's parts of the course where the grass is a little bit longer or sticky, as someone mentioned, and that time it still found an edge and got up and rolled away from him. And this one's conversely doesn't roll, you know, more than a few feet, and Macbeth is in great position. So let's take a look at our MPO lead scores. Again, all day long, sitting in the clubhouse has been Grady Shue along with Drew Gibson, both sitting at 10 under, and I think they're about to be either joined or at least maybe even tied by the end of the day with Simon Lizotte and Eagle McMahon, as they're looking at birdies. Rikki Wysocki.
Quite possibly Rikki as well.
Exactly. Eric Mccabe. We won't see Paul Macbeth on the lead card tomorrow, no matter how this goes down. Andrew Presnell tied with him at 7 under par. Nate Doss and Jordan Castro both at 6 under par. So maybe a little bit of the vibe playing off one another on that second card. So great to see as we're looking at our top 10 during the opening round at the Dynamic Disc Glass Blown Open. And on the FPO side, let's take a quick look before we cut back to the men. Rebecca Cox still at that 3 under. I'm not sure. Maybe they're all taking a nap on hole 16's tee. But we'll get back here to Rikki as he's lining up his putt.
This will be for his birdie 3. This is for a share of the lead and most likely a spot on the lead card tomorrow. If all 3 competitors at 9 under par who are still out on the course end up birdieing this hole, only 4 of them will make the featured card tomorrow. And I'll need to check on PDGA numbers to tell you who's the highest number. I can guarantee you Simon Lizotte would be on the featured card if he makes it, as his is a 4-digit number.
Yeah, Simon Lizotte in the 8,000s as so many international players. And Rikki.
Huge putt for Rikki. That's to secure a
Look
tie
at that
for the
smile.
lead.
Come on now.
Oh, cheese and Rikki.
Oh,
I don't know if I like this cheese and Rikki, man.
He's loving it. Rikki Wysocki with a great birdie putt to finish out the round. And right now we've got Eagle McMahon from just a little bit closer than what we saw from Wysocki. And also converts
as well.
Beautiful.
So it looks like if Simon's close as we think he is, it looks like our lead card tomorrow is going to be Drew Gibson, Eagle McMahon, Simon Lizotte, and Rikki Wysocki. Grady Shue. A brutal cut through for Paul Macbeth. That was a putt where he did everything right, and the putter just refused to stay in the basket. Ouch! That's so hard to see. Good putt by Paul that just didn't get rewarded. And that's going to be a birdie 3 for Simon, so Paul will be left to tap out. As we said, that means our lead card tomorrow is going to leave Grady Shue out of the bunch. He's going to lose out because of his PDGA number. That'll be how they order cards tomorrow. So it looks like we're going to have Drew Gibson, Rikki Wysocki, Eagle McMahon, and Simon Lizotte on our featured card tomorrow. Pretty good card.
I was just going to say, I don't know how you can argue with that. I'm looking back at Simon's round here on UDisc. I see that he was completely blemish-free. Well, sometimes you may consider par as a blemish, but blemish-free. And maybe there's even a little bit of irony in that the longest hole on the course that you start on it, and he didn't birdie it.
That's right.
So when you're going to say, oh, who's going to birdie or eagle this hole, Simon Lizotte has to be on the tip of your tongue, but he starts out with a par on hole number 1. He goes on and ultimately gets 10 birdies in the remaining 17 holes, and Simon Lizotte tied with Eagle McMahon, Rikki Wysocki, Drew Gibson, and Grady Shue, as you said. And of those players, Simon Lizotte is the only one to stay bogey-free, actually. In fact, I looked down all the way through the top 10. Simon Lizotte may be the only player in the entire field today that stayed completely bogey-free.
It's very impressive out
McMahon
there.
with a bogey, Wysocki with 2 bogeys, Gibson and Shue both with a bogey. Eric Mccabe spoke of his single bogey earlier. So every other competitor, I believe, out there had at least 1 bogey somewhere. Simon Lizotte doesn't have time for that.
And that's going to put him in a tie for the lead. That's the way you play golf.
That is
Well
the
done.
way you do it. We'll do one last check-in and see if they've moved on at all on the women's side.
No
And
way.
It looks like they're still standing there possibly on hole 16, trying to play hole number 16. In fact, you can click on, for those that don't know, UDisc has implemented, as of the Tour Championships, the Pro Tour Championships last year, they implemented a shot tracker. So you can actually click and see exactly where they are. I sometimes turn it off so I can see a little bit more cleanly what's going on.
It says they're on the fairway, and it said that
After
for a
2
little
throws,
while.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll see how that shakes out on that side. Of course, as we're looking at the women's lead card, I see Rebecca Cox, Paige Pierce, Lauren Butler, Lisa Fakis, and Andrea Eads all right in the thick of things. So we're assuming probably 3 or 4 of them will be who we see on that lead card tomorrow. We'll be able to bring you some footage from them as they're competing during their second round.
It's more than likely true, and we're really excited to be able to feature them alongside the MPO coverage tomorrow as well. We appreciate your patience with all of the cell signal troubles that we had today. We are absolutely doing our best out here, and thank you so much for tuning in. We love getting to spend time with you guys and host you guys for the 2018 GBO.
It's been awesome. So for Robert McCall, who's joined me on the mic, thank you so much for joining us. We've got Gary to the O, along with Chad Inman and Rick Couchane out in the field. Johnny V calling the shots here in the studio. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate the support. Thank you to Dynamic Disc, along with our PDGA and the national tour that we're here for. We look forward to seeing you guys later tonight. Join us. Robert's going to be on a bull for like 3 straight hours and just doing commentary while he's riding the mechanical bull at the Bourbon Cup.
Well, he's throwing a textbook hyzer here.
I don't
we'll
think
be
so. I don't
live
think so.
tonight for a wrap-up show. We'll interview some of our sports top players and promoters, so look forward to that tonight around 9 p.m. Central. If you somehow missed that, you can rejoin us tomorrow for the live broadcast taking place at 3 p.m. Central. For Robert and Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, we'll see you tomorrow when you step inside the Smash Box.